Okay. Normally it's live. I don't know how to go check it on my YouTube page. How do I do that? I am so good at this. It's definitely not my first time or anything. Oh, okay. No, it is live. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that so that it doesn't lag. And there we go. We are live.
Awesome. Can people comment and ask questions?
Yes, but I think that you would need to actually be on my YouTube channel to answer them. But I can highlight them if they come on.
Okay.
But I'm going to start drinking now because why not? I'll start my experimental beer. Oh, but I guess since you guys have never been here, you should introduce yourselves. So who wants to go first?
Okay.
Okay, go Claire.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Claire. I am also an American who lives in Belgium. I live in the Antwerp area. So not the same experience as Kathryn's experience. Yeah, that's about it.
Yep.
And I'm Céline. I am from Belgium, so I feel like we are going to have a lot of disagreements. And I don't live in Belgium. I live in London. I've been in London for the past almost 9 years.
You don't want to come back? We have better beer.
Yes, there is definitely better beer in Belgium. No, I don't plan on coming back, no. But I'm getting my beer too. And I don't have the glass, so if anyone is watching who was trolling you about the glass, I don't have the glass because I live in London and I don't have space for glasses.
No, see, now I purposely don't use the right glasses just to troll people. Like, they have made me that annoyed. It's like, I get so many comments sometimes. It's like, okay, I could get really upset about this, or I can continue doing this for another year using the wrong glass just to annoy them. That's where I'm at.
I like that. That's commitment.
I know. It's like, keep leaving the negative comments. That just means I'm going to do it longer. Because that's the type of person I am.
It makes sense. That's the only choice.
Yeah. But I feel like that's a very American response. I feel like other people might have just, let it go. Not me.
No.
No, I think I would be exactly like that too. Just to annoy because it's just a stupid comment. It's ridiculous. Yes, it's nice to have the glass of the beer, but also you can't have 200 glasses at home.
Yeah, not yet. They've started the collection.
To be fair, it's not very. Seeing how many bottles you have behind you.
That's true.
You totally have 200 glasses at home. But
yeah, raison d'être.
Sorry, I'm so rude. I started drinking before you. Santé, as we say on the.
Oh yeah.
Part
I forgot. I forgot you spoke French.
Okay, apparently we are rude and we start drinking before everyone. So, it's the spirit matters. It's beer, It's Friday night, you need the beer.
We can't wait.
No, definitely not.
No, here's a question for you, because I know you speak French, but you're not French. And in France, they have this whole thing that when you go to a party, you have to go in and say hello to each person, despite the fact that you're not going to talk to them for the rest of the night, and you're hungry and you just want to drink. Do you do that on the French side?
I don't, but I'm rude, so I don't know. No, it is a bit more. It's true that when you arrive somewhere, it's kind of like expected of you to go and at least acknowledge everyone. And you do the kiss on the cheek. Now in Wallonie, we do it just one kiss on the cheek because we don't have time. We have to get to the beer. In France, they do a little bit more, depending on where you are. It's actually something that is very, very difficult to change when you go from one French-speaking country or place to another. Because in Belgium, you do one. When I lived in Switzerland, I lived in Switzerland for almost 3 years. You do 3. And then in France, in many areas, it's 2. But I think in Paris, it's 4. Can you imagine how long it takes with 4?
Oh my gosh, no, I hate the BCs because I got used to 2 and now they do 1 and it's, okay, sorry. It's just, I really like the American way better where when you just go into a room, you're like, hey guys, and then you just go to the food.
To be honest, I don't miss that at all. So what about you, Claire? Do you do like 1, 2?
It depends entirely on who it is.
Mm.
So like a lot of people, it's just 1. And then some people you do 1 and they're going in for the second one and you're like, oh, sorry. And then some people are doing 3 and you're like, why?
So awkward. Like every time when you meet people who are coming from a different place, it's just like, oh. That's like the first 5 minutes of meeting someone. And then they think we're weird, but yeah.
Well, was it hard for you to stop doing those when you moved to London?
Not at all. Like literally, that is something I am so glad I don't have to do anymore at all. I don't like people in my personal space. So that, like, to me, even hugging is a bit like invading. So for me, COVID is perfect. Just stay 2 meters away from me. I don't want to see you. But no, that is not something that's changed too much. I feel like it's easier when it's not like, because I don't think in England it's too much of a convention that you have to do something. It's more like you see how people are doing and then you do the same. So it's a bit more relaxed, I would say. There's not much awkwardness about that. That's good.
Okay,
you just when you come back home. Oh.
This one's the mix tastes so much better. Just an FYI. Oh my gosh. I'm never getting it pre-mixed again. Oh my gosh.
You know, in my hometown in Mons, we have this thing with the bûche. It's called bûche flambée, and it's this giant glass, like that big glass of, I don't remember which one it is of the bûche because it's been a long time. And they put that, and then they put some alcohol that they flame, and then you drink that with a straw. And don't do that if you haven't eaten before, because it's yeah, but it is really good. It is very good. I think you can actually choose which beer you have in there, so you can have like more sweet, less sweet, and things like that. But that's a specialty from Mons. I don't know if I should be proud of it, but
of course, you definitely should.
That's one of the things when you're a student you really enjoy.
No, I have this. I'm really sad with the whole lockdown thing because I had plans to continue my conversion when it comes to pumpkin. You guys don't do pumpkin right.
What?
She's right.
You don't. Okay, if I say pumpkin, what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
I don't know, like the carving of the pumpkin? I don't know.
Well, that's better because most people would say soup. And it's like, no, that is a perfectly good pumpkin that was wasted.
It's not supposed to be done with pumpkin, though. It's supposed to be done with squash, the soup.
Ah.
I think. I don't know, maybe
Prince
I'm confused.
always made it with pumpkin. No, pumpkin for me is pie or cookies or something sweet, not hearty. And I had plans to make pumpkin cookies to take to school to give to people to show them the proper way of how one should eat pumpkin. And now I can't. And
oh no!
I know.
I've never had pumpkin cookies. I've had pumpkin pie, which is delicious. But yeah, I don't think I've ever had pumpkin cookies. It's not really a thing here in the UK either, I think.
No.
It's like the pumpkin. Is it pumpkin spice thing that you have that everyone is saying? Oh my god, the latte, blah 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 blah. I don't think that many people drink that here. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe
I've never had a pumpkin spice latte.
I don't think I have either.
But I think that became popular because of Starbucks, and I've also never been there.
Yeah, I think it's just a marketing ploy. It doesn't exist. I don't know.
Because pumpkin spice is literally just a mix of cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, and clove. You can make it yourself.
Yeah,
Oh, so
it's just the fall flavors.
It's not made with pumpkin.
No.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be. Like, it's a spice blend that you usually put with pumpkin, like pumpkin pie.
Oh, I see. I was lied to.
But yeah, if you ever buy it and you look at the ingredients, it's always cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, and clove.
Okay, so it's like the kind of thing you have in any like winter kind of thing, winter cookies.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes more sense to me because I couldn't figure out what it was. You see, it's been years I've been hearing about that. And I was like, when I go to America, I will have one to see. But yeah,
you can come to my house. I'll make you American food.
Oh my god, just seeing this Thanksgiving thing that really makes me want to try that.
See, I would totally invite you this year, but it's COVID, so you can't come. But I am doing Thanksgiving, and I'm sort of annoyed because we were going to have, like, Prince Charming's parents and his sister come, but now with the whole lockdown and the whole rule of, I think it's 2 people or 1 person, they can't come. Yeah, they can't come now. So we're going to have so much extra food because he got an actual turkey.
How did he find a turkey in Belgium?
He went to the butcher's and he was like, can we get a turkey in November? Oh, we have a comment. There we go. Yeah. Where is everybody located? Everyone's in Belgium except Céline.
Yes, I'm in London, but I am from Belgium. So that's how I know.
She's the expert, even though she doesn't live here anymore.
Yeah, I was born and raised in jolly Belgium.
No, okay. We can have my applesauce rants if that's acceptable to everybody.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, because Claire, you like to have your applesauce warm. Or Céline, not Claire. Because Claire, how do you have your applesauce?
Cold.
Exactly. That is the proper way. Okay,
out of the fridge.
No. This is my rant. So I make homemade applesauce, right? But I'm also really lazy, and I would make it in advance so that it could be cold. And for years, I felt guilty about this because I was thinking, I'm giving Prince Charming hot applesauce. It's so weird. And he's so thoughtful and kind because he's never once complained about it. And I'm just thinking, I'm so lucky to be married to such a wonderful man who doesn't complain about the fact that I'm not making cold applesauce. And it was literally maybe 2 years ago where I found out that for him, hot applesauce is normal.
Yeah, you don't eat it cold.
And I was so angry because for years I have felt guilty about this. I was like, you don't deserve my nice compliments because it's supposed to be eaten cold.
No, who said
that? And it's a dessert.
It is a dessert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a meal. It goes with your meal. Okay, so if anyone is watching who's not from Belgium, I'm not crazy, I promise. We have this special meal. I think it blocked there. Okay, so we have this special meal that is blood sausage and hot applesauce and fries, and it's kind of like a sweet and salty kind of thing, and it's fantastic, and it's a very, very known kind of meal. And sometimes you won't have blood sausage, you would just have like a normal sausage, but that's something that you eat, and that's something that you really like to eat when you're from Belgium, you know. And yeah, applesauce for me is not a dessert, it's the thing that you get with that meal.
Well, see, that still makes sense, but I think that only makes sense for me because like we mix stuff on our plate. So you can have like your main thing and the dessert with it. So in my mind, when you have the sausages, the potatoes, and the applesauce is still considered the dessert. It's not a side.
No, you don't get dessert at the same time as your meal.
Yes, you do.
You can. That's
don't
what Thanksgiving
do things
is.
right.
See, we have very different rules. Because for me, the dessert is after the meal. You know?
Well, that's because you do things in courses.
Yeah, that's true. That is something. My fiance, he's from Norway, and they have also a very different sort of like food traditions. And so, for example, when we went to Christmas 2019 in Belgium, we are doing different things. You have the aperitif, and then you have the first course, and then the main course, and then sometimes you have a cheese, and then you have dessert, and then you have like the alcohol and everything. That is not really something that he does in Norway. And so that is just something you have to get used to, because you can have a meal that lasts 5 hours.
No.
Yes.
No, I feel bad when Belgians come over, because when I say come over for dinner and I say like dinner's at 7, like I expect them to be seated and ready to eat at 7. And in their minds, they get there at 7.
Yeah.
And then they expect to have like this, oh, well, what's like the little before dinner snack?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, there is no before dinner snack. There is dinner. You're not ruining your appetite.
That is so true. Literally, my experience when I went to Norway, that was exactly that. We had Christmas dinner, and I was expecting other stuff before the dinner. So when they say dinner is at a certain time, but we had dinner at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird, because when you do, like, especially when you do a special meal, you kind of expect in Belgium, and I think it's very French, you expect to have that before anything else, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird.
I never think to do that, and then I feel bad. Because when my husband does stuff for me, he always has like the little thing before dinner. I'm like, oh, okay, this is nice, but then I get full, and then there's still like the main course. I was like, this wasn't the dinner. There was so much of it, though.
Yeah, you could really have a full meal with just aperitif stuff like cheese and meat, and then olives, and then crisps and everything. Yeah.
We have comments. I'm sorry, I'm so bad at these comment things. Okay, so wait, here's the first one. It's like, we're in Belgium, and
Ah, nice. Well,
where is that?
It is.
That side.
It's in the Brabant Wallon, I think.
Yeah, where's that?
It's just
is that the Dutch side or the French side?
It's just under Brussels. So yeah, it's the French-speaking side.
Okay. Well, then there's this one. He's also from Seattle. Lived
Another
in Brussels.
American.
Oh, and he's going to KU Leuven. I know where that is. Vivus is a subsidiary of that. And it's my birthday. Well, it was on the 4th.
Oh yeah, we haven't even said anything. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
I mean, I said it yesterday, but Twitter is not the same as real life.
I'm being responsible and having a party online because I'm considerate. Unlike these people who are just having gatherings and spreading their germs.
True. I don't know. For me, lockdown hasn't changed really much, because I'm already always at home anyway, working from home, not trying to go out, because people don't understand the masks are quite important. So yeah.
No, I get people who are like, they don't do anything to protect you. I'm like, yes, that is correct. It doesn't protect you. It prevents you from spreading your germs. Like, that's what it's doing. I could complain about that, because I find it really annoying that at my school, the students are more responsible about the mask than the teachers.
Really?
Yeah, I have so many teachers that are like, oh, well, if you sit far enough away, I won't need to wear my mask while I'm teaching. And I'm there thinking, you're spreading your germs. You're spreading your germs. Like if you have COVID and you're an asymptomatic carrier, this mask only protects me like 20%. Even if you stay like the whole 1.5 meters away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that makes me mad.
Let's move away from COVID then.
But I will say that I'm very impressed with how Belgium is handling everything, because at least compared to my country, they're at least doing stuff.
I think compared to America, every country is better.
Yeah, that's true.
Not a good metric.
Yeah. But I was surprised because Prince Charming was telling me how the government is offering a package to parents, because next week all the students, like little kids in school, don't have school. And so if you're a parent with a child, the government's going to pay you a certain amount of money to stay at home and watch them instead of whatever. And I was like, wow, like the US would never do that.
Wow, I hadn't heard that.
That's what you get by having a socialist government, you know? That's
what you have it when you pay taxes.
That's true.
I know we're supposed to pay like so much more taxes in Belgium, but I really think it depends on your situation, because I know so many Belgians who like really focus on the amount of money they make and try and keep it within a certain tax bracket, and will choose other things instead of getting money. So their employer will offer them like more vacation or a car, or they'll get like those food stamp type things where they get a budget for their food.
Meal checks.
So they get all these extra benefits that it's like they're rolling in benefits, but they're also making quote unquote less money. But I think if you'd add up all the benefits that they got, I feel like Belgians would be making bank compared to Americans overseas, especially with the healthcare. I broke my toe and went to the emergency room and didn't even think about it.
Yeah, you said that if you had been at home, you would have waited several days just to be sure
to see if it got. Yeah, I would have gone on Google and be like, what do I do if I think my toe's broken?
Wow.
Because I was like, I think the toe's broken. But no, I went to the doctors, and then they were like, oh yeah, it's broken. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It's not in my head. And they're like, yeah, don't drive. Here's a note so you don't have to go to school. And I was like, oh, they're going to give me so much crap. And no, they didn't. I was, wow.
I mean, yeah, you broke your toe. I mean, what can they say?
Go to work.
I know that in America, if you like half dead, you're expected to work, but you know, in other countries, that's not the case.
Well, so sad.
But see, that's like culture shock to me. It really is. Like, the doctor comes to your house.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
I miss that. We don't have that here, at least not in London.
Like, I've never done that, but the fact that I have the option of it, it's just like, mind blown.
When you're a kid, if you are sick, you better really be sick, because the doctor is going to come to the home. and if you're faking to avoid going to the school, they're going to know. And that's not going to be good. Oh, I think one of the commenters, she's from a 30-year-old female married to a Flemish guy from Bruges.
Ah, cool. So you must be in West Flanders. I'm in West Flanders. Unless you're living in Seattle. Oh, wait, no. She should probably be. Oh, no, she lives in Brussels. I'm smart. I read.
Well, what is it with you Americans just marrying a Flemish guy and living in Belgium? There's three of you.
The healthcare.
I guess. You know how cheap school is here?
I know.
No, do you want to know something so hilarious? Is that I still have family members who 100% believe that my husband married me for the green card.
What?
Me too.
Yeah, and it's like, why?
America when you're Belgian.
Yeah, I was like, why would anybody know? If anything, people should be saying that I married him for the residency card in Belgium. I have health care. I brag hard on that. Like, I was bragging about the fact that I went to the emergency room and I'm not even worried about how much it's going to cost.
That is a really that's a big thing. I mean, here in the UK we have the NHS, and so I'm also like free healthcare, but we are at risk of losing it, and it's terrifying because I don't want to have an American system where you literally
No,
are thinking,
don't.
oh my God.
See, Claire, I told you look nice.
Thank you so much. That's so nice.
Aww. Well, there you go. We can't say anything anymore now.
What are your secrets, Claire? Share.
Yes, please.
Well, I had to wear lipstick because I can't, like, nobody can see it now that I go outside because I'm wearing a mask. It's like, guys, I look really good under here. You just don't know.
Yeah, I rediscovered my lipstick today, and it's dead. After like 1 year not using it, it's just dead. My single lipstick.
No, see, that's like the good thing about having to stay at home in classes. It's like, I don't need to get dressed. I can just go to school in my pajamas. It's like, it's so American. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I work from home, but we have quite a lot of meetings when you have videos. So at least the top half of you has to be good. You can be in sweatpants, it's fine, but the top half has to be okay.
Well, there's an interesting question because I was asked, how old am I? I'm old now. But I think I might be the oldest one here because I'm 33.
No, you're not the oldest.
Really? Are you older than me?
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Not by much, but I am older than you, yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
Are you? I thought you were in your 20s. How old are you, Claire? Are you the baby?
Yeah, I'm 27.
Oh, yeah, you're the baby. Yes, being old.
Well, I'm not as old as I thought I was because I have this thing where I do math in my head. And in the beginning of the year, I was thinking, okay, I'm turning 33 this year. And so then I got it in my head that I was 33. So I was thinking, okay, in November, I'm turning 34. So then in my head, I was 34. And I was like, oh, I'm turning 35 this year. Gosh, I'm so old. And I was going through my mind, like really dreading the fact that I was turning 35. And then my birthday was coming up and I was like, no, wait, it's 2020. I shouldn't be turning 35. I was born in 87. I was like, oh, wait, I'm turning 33. I'm only 32.
Oh my God.
That's a good surprise.
Yeah. I'm 2 years younger than what I thought I was.
Definitely. See, I wish I was wrong, but I'm turning 35 in January, and unfortunately, I'm not wrong.
No, I'm happy to be getting older. It's great.
After a certain age, I just try to forget and not count.
Well, see, I forget how old I am because it's like 30 for me was the big number, and I guess the next one will be 40. So like all these years in between, it's like, whatever.
True. Oh, there's a question.
I've never been to Brussels.
Oh, I lived in Brussels for 2 years. Cheap, I don't know. Brussels is pretty expensive for a city in Belgium, like compared to Mons, at least where I'm from. But the good things to do, well, there's a few really good bars, cafe. There's like the one that everyone goes to is the Delirium. You might have heard of it.
Oh, from the beer.
From the beer, yes. It's a really cool one to go like if you're not really familiar with beers, because it's mostly a tourist place, to be honest. But it's nice because then you can have quite a big assortment of different beers, and you can just choose, and they can help you also which kind of beer you like, or if you want to discover you've never had beer or anything. And it's quite a nice atmosphere too, so I quite like that one. What else? I have a friend who actually does beer tours in Brussels. Search like beer tours. There are so many good ones. They just like, unfortunately with COVID, it's a bit difficult. But
it's probably closed now.
Well, they reopened after the lockdown, so I think when the lockdown is finished, they will probably try to reopen and make it so that people are quite far away. You have enough distance so that you can go, and you go into many places. You can go to churches and then taste the beers that is from that order of monks or whatever, or you can go to historical places in Brussels, which is pretty cool. But just avoid the Grand Place if you want nice food and nice beer, because it's just a rip-off for tourists. Anywhere else is good, in my opinion.
I've never been to Brussels. That's still on my bucket list.
Oh. How long have you been in Belgium?
Only 3 years.
Oh, only 3?
I've been to Antwerpen. That's where I got my engagement ring.
Ooh. Oh yeah, the diamond area.
Diamond District?
Yeah. That was fun. I've also been to Bruges. I got the most epic photo of chocolate boobs. I was so happy. And then I lost the picture. I was devastated.
No.
So I need to go back there to get a picture. Yeah, I don't know where it was. We were passing this chocolate shop, and I think it was a chocolate shop for like adult chocolate or something, because they had like chocolate boobs and chocolate penises. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is on a display for everybody to see. This was like way back in the beginning. I was having culture shock because I remember seeing an advertisement of a woman's breast, and I was like, you can't have that in America. That's porn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we can have that in the UK either, to be honest. I think yeah, so what was like for you guys when you arrived in Belgium? What was the most shocking thing, or the most culture shock you had?
Everything's small.
Everything's small.
Yeah. Because I got used to France, and when I went to France, I thought, wow, things are really small compared to like stores in the US. And now we went to Belgium. I was having like a really difficult time with the grocery stores because they were so tiny. Oh my gosh. I'm so used to France because they had this like gigantic section of fresh produce. Like you had 20 different lettuces that you could choose from, and like 20 different types of potatoes and onions. And then we went to Belgium, and I couldn't go to the other grocery stores. I went to Deleuze, which is the expensive one. And I went there because they had the best produce section, and it made me feel the most comfortable, even though it was so tiny. But I was like, how am I supposed to choose between just 3 types of lettuces? I was so sad.
Yeah, in my hometown, they opened this big Carrefour shop, which is French. So it's like super big, and it's not something that we were used to. But then everyone started going there because it's just like big. You have like so many cheese and so many different fruits and vegetables and everything. It's magic. I miss that so much being here in the UK. Like fresh produce and stuff like that.
Another culture shock was that how many people like speak something besides Dutch. I was really worried because after living in France, they only speak French there. And if you don't speak French, well, like F you. But in Belgium, like I remember 3 months in, I got into a bike accident because, well, I'm a foreigner. I don't know how to ride a bike. And the ambulance came, and I was telling them, I can't go to the hospital because I haven't learned the vocab yet, but if you wait till tomorrow, we're having the lesson. I think I was having like, shock or something, and they were like, it's okay, we speak English. And I was like, oh, Why? Are you American?
I think that is mainly the Dutch-speaking area, the Flemish area. Because in the French-speaking, it's probably more difficult to find people who speak English. So, like, it's more than in France, definitely, but not as much as in the Flemish area.
What are some culture shock things that you had, Claire?
Oh, so the first time I ever came here, I was 18. And I hadn't been anywhere else really, other than like this area of California. So everything was culture shock. I think one of the first things was I was going to the airport and there were these guys in like military uniforms with these giant guns.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, is something going on, or are we okay? That was something. And then like the weather wasn't also very hard for me.
From California, I can imagine.
Yeah, where I'm from, it's my area of California. It is always like 30 degrees Celsius, basically, or hotter. Always. So I came here during the summer, and I brought my winter coat because I knew it was going to be cold. But my winter coat is like this thick, and I'm freezing to death. And everyone's like, "It's summer, barbecue, shorts," and I'm like, "It's raining. What's wrong with you? Why are we outside?" Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I had somebody yell at me because I said that it rains all the time in Belgium. And they're like, "You're exaggerating." So I looked this up. No, because I'm saying, am I exaggerating? Am I perpetuating a stereotype? Because I was worried about this. And I actually looked it up. And in Pennsylvania, where I come from, we actually get more precipitation per year. The difference is it comes in rain and snow. So, like, those are two very different forms of precipitation. And it only comes in like 4 months versus in Belgium, it's rain over a 6-month period. So if you're used to rain in a 2-month period, that's 4 extra months. So it does rain all the time. I was
all the time.
Apparently, Seattle is the same. Seattle and Belgium, same weather. Yeah, I can imagine it's kind of like the same like horizontal line. I would say, but you know what? It really depends, because I feel like there was also a lot of stereotype about London being very, very rainy, but I find that Belgium was more, because in Belgium, when it starts raining, it rains for 2 weeks and it just doesn't stop. Well, in the UK, because it's an island, it can rain, but then you will have a very quick change of weather. You can have like all 4 seasons in one day. It's a bit weird like that, but it's true that it rains. It just doesn't give you this kind of like overcast permanently sensation that you have in Belgium from September till April.
No, I remember a couple years ago, there was a news story that stated that over a 2-week period, we had like 37 minutes of sunshine.
Oh, God.
I was like, yeah, that feels about right.
Yeah, that makes sense now.
I cannot comprehend how from California you could get used to Belgium.
Vitamin D.
Yeah.
Lots of vitamin D.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Oh yeah. No, the weather here, like that's something, people say, well, you can talk about the weather. And like in Pennsylvania, we have 4 seasons. So like summer is summer, spring is spring, fall is fall, winter is winter. Like it doesn't change. But you could actually have conversations about the weather in Belgium, because it changes. Like in the morning, it can be winter. And then in the evening, it's just hot and it's summer. And then sometimes you get hail and then you get this wind and you think, is there going to be a tornado? Because this is really like freaking me out.
There's sometimes like tiny tornadoes. It's very rare though.
You say that, and like I think it was a month ago, there was an EF0 tornado. And it was on the news. And I got very upset because Prince Charming's like, we never get tornadoes. It's like, there was a tornado.
We do. There was one near where my parents live, and it was a tiny one. It was like apparently just a few meters wide, but it destructed a lot of things. Like it really went, you could see literally the path of the tornado. It was just very tiny, it's like Belgium is tiny, so we don't need the big tornadoes, we just need the tiny one. That's enough.
Okay, no, here. What did you guys study in school? So I'm doing business management and entrepreneurship. Then what are you doing, Claire?
I'm doing IT.
And then what did you do, Céline?
So I'm not in school anymore, unfortunately. I studied physics.
See, you could be on the Big Bang Theory.
I've met people like the people on the Big Bang Theory. It's almost not a stereotype, I swear. I've met more than one Sheldon.
I think if I was a physicist, I would try really hard to meet Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like that would be my goal in life.
That would be really cool. That would be really, really cool. Yeah. It's really funny with the Big Bang Theory, because when it came out, I was doing, it was when I was doing my PhD in Switzerland. And we had on Fridays, we had kind of like a little bit more big of a break and everything. And I had downloaded like illegally the first episodes, and I played them for everyone during the break. And you had these old professors, like people who were retired, but they were still coming to the office because that was their thing, and they were laughing their ass off. They were like crying because they were laughing so hard because it's so accurate. At least the beginning, I haven't seen it, like I think I stopped watching it like season 3 or something, but at the very beginning it was so accurate how physicists are. It's uncanny, really.
Well, I think they actually had people come onto the show to help write the script so that they were accurate for like the math and the physics part.
I mean, the math and the physics is a bit simple, at least at the beginning. Again, I haven't seen like the most recent ones. Like the equations that they write on the board, they look like legit. They're just a bit easy. They're more like grad student kind of level, more than like people who are already doctors and things like that. But otherwise, yeah, I think they had several consultants for the different disciplines that they have.
That's the word I was looking for.
Consultants.
I'm losing my English.
How?
Because I don't use it every day.
No, you know what? That is so true. I'm losing my French too.
Well, it is better now that I've gone to because my program is in English. The only issue is I'm speaking with everybody else who speaks English as a second language. And there's a difference when it comes to expression, because sometimes there's a direct way to talk, but because they don't know those direct terms, that they'll sort of speak in a circle of sorts. And I understand them, but it's sort of, you could have said it like with this many words.
Yeah. We had a way of saying that when I was especially when I was in Switzerland, and it was at the very beginning when my English was not great. We called it Erasmus English, because you have this program Erasmus between different universities, and that's kind of like the least common denominator between the different people. It's like that very easy, simple English that everyone speaks, and so it's not really necessarily the right way, but everyone in Europe will understand when you say it, even if it's not proper English.
Okay, here's something for me and Claire. Look at Claire, that's for me. Happy birthday. Het is hier interessant dat je familienaam de sinaasappelen is. Yeah, that's not actually my family name, by the way. It's just an inside joke. But yeah. It's happy birthday, and it's very interesting that your family name is de sinaasappelen. And de sinaasappelen in Dutch is orange. Well, the oranges, which I did as an inside joke, because in Dutch you have de sinaasappelen and then de sinaasappels. So you have two different words for oranges.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you also have like two words for onion, which is ayon and I think it is, or like AI. Then you have knoflook and look for garlic. You have choices in Dutch, lots of choices. I did a whole video on it. Lots of choices.
Yeah, it's very difficult when you have to learn it, and then they tell you that anyway, even if you learn the right one, nobody speaks that one because you go to one city and they speak a certain slang, and then you go to
Yeah,
another
dialect.
and then when you watch the TV and you have people speaking, they always have subtitles because they don't speak the
Oh yeah,
the proper name. Like it's there is a special expression for that, and nobody speaks it, but that's the one that it's officially the Flemish, and you're just like, well, that doesn't help. And then you go to Holland and you think, yeah, I speak Dutch, I can totally go to Holland, and then they're like,
something else. Okay.
and then yeah.
Here's this. Okay, I did go to the CBO courses in Ypres, and I went to level 8, but they do the numbering system weird, so I think it might have been
Yeah, I also went to CVO and I hated it because everyone was very interesting. Yeah, there were a lot of interesting people who did a lot of interesting things, and it was too interesting for me. So I moved to a different school.
Okay, see, those are the 2 different words for onion.
I've never seen the first one.
Ayun? See,
Ayun?
yeah, well, this is the plural versions. It's onions and onions.
Yeah, but the spelling is different.
Yeah, you have choices.
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
see, I
with an A.
An Applesauce.
See, I learned ayun, and then I learned the second one when I was ordering a pizza. Yeah, and this is the 2 words for oranges.
Yeah.
You have choices in Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, at least it makes it a rich language. You know, it's very funny because for people my side of Belgium, we don't really like to learn Netherlands. I think it's like there's not that many people who actually have learned it like and can speak it properly. But it's a shame because it's such a rich language. You have it's like any Germanic language. I'm passionate with these languages. I'm learning Norwegian, of course, with my fiance. But I think that they have such a richness to them, and you can have like shortened way of saying that you don't have in French or in any Latin language.
Yeah. Well, because I think, Claire, do you know French?
No. I took high school French in America, so no.
Okay, because I learned French and then I learned Dutch. And everybody asked me, which one's the most difficult? And it's like, they're both evil in their own specific ways. Because French has the conjugation. Oh my gosh, I do not like French conjugation. It's just mean. But then with with Dutch, you have the word order because they take their verbs and just do weird things with them. Like I think I understand the word order. I'll write something, and then Prince Charming's like, "Why did you put this here?" It's like, because that's where it goes. It's like, no. It's like, I hate your language.
It's so hard.
It is. Like, I feel like to some extent, like, once you get used to the conjugation in French, it's not that difficult. But I swear, like, learning Dutch is so much harder, I feel like. The word order, just, I feel like I'm speaking like Yoda. Like, that's how people must perceive me. Because Yoda spoke backwards. And, like, I cannot put the verb at the end of a sentence. I can't do it. My mind's like, no.
That is so funny. It's just thinking like a Dutch person watching Star Wars, and then someone asks them like, "Oh, so how was Yoda talking?" Like, I don't know. They were talking.
Exactly. I imagine that for them it must be normal.
No, but the Dutch gets a lot of flack, but I find that it's a really pretty language. And I mean, it might be the only one, but I find that it's a really pretty language. I would love to I wish I had learned more before I left. I kind of left while I was learning, so unfortunately I forgot everything.
Oh, I think Dutch is really romantic. I know people are like, really romantic. It's like, yes.
Probably not biased about that.
Maybe.
But then again, I think the same about Norwegian, so you know.
Okay, so how is it raising children in Belgium? I'm still thinking about moving back home, but I don't know. The benefits are so nice here. I personally like having my children in Belgium because I don't need to worry about them going to school and getting shot. That's like thumbs up. I also like the healthcare. I also like the school system. Like the school systems are so different comparatively because like in the US you have a school district and your school district is decided based on where you live. But over here you sort of have some choices. Because I don't want to say where we live. I'm just going to say that we live in Lorrainen. That's a big enough place that it leaves some room for, you know, you can't stalk me. But my children go to school in Dixmude. So that's like a 20-minute drive from where we live. And there is a school here that they could go to, but we chose this other school. So I like that you can sort of, if you don't want them to go to this school because you think this school is better, you can. But there's also that like semi-private thing that you do, that the schools can be quote unquote religious, even though most of the time the religious schools.
That's what I did. That's where I went to a religious Catholic school. Yeah.
But I don't feel like they're religious. Not like what I would view as a religious school in the US.
Oh, well, I don't know how it is in the US, but I went to a Catholic school in my hometown in Mons, and it was still at the time, because I think things have changed since. It has been many, many years. You still had to go to the mass quite regularly. Mm-hmm. My first year, you had to say a prayer to start the day. We were taught by several priests. And yeah, you didn't really have any like class where you learned other kind of religions. You were having a lot of Bible study and things like that. So I guess it has changed a little bit now, because from what I hear, the school, at least where I went to, the priest kind of left. But it's still Catholic in the philosophy and how they do things. But we didn't have to wear a uniform, for example. That was not the case. But maybe 20 years earlier, they had to do it. So the good thing is that no matter what you choose, it's still pretty cheap too. So it's not like, I don't really know of any school where you had to pay a high amount of money to go to.
Well, it seems that if you go to a private or even like a public school, like the tuition is still the same.
You have to, basically, it's a right for you to go to school without having to pay anything if your parents can't afford anything. But obviously, you have all of these like extracurricular activities that you would not be able to participate if you don't pay an extra. But yeah, most of it is free. Most of it is like, it's totally affordable. You don't have to pay for your books or things like that. And that's the same at university. You have a tuition at university, but it's not that expensive. I paid for my tuition by working during the summer between universities. So,
well, no, the school rates are amazing because my children go to a private specialized school. And I think the tuition is like 90 euros per year.
Wow.
And it's like 180 in total because I have two. And it's amazing. But
yeah, I think it's good. It's really good.
But they're also going to a Catholic school, but the Catholic part is optional. I mean, I'd say we're the a la carte religious people. So like, you know, the high holidays. That's when we're religious. But even Vivus, the school that I'm currently going to, that's a Catholic school, but it's not like there's mass or anything. So I see like all these religious schools, and I put it in quotations like that because they say they're religious, but maybe it's reflective in their code of conduct or something.
I think it's more historical than anything, to be honest. I don't think it's more like, I don't think it is, especially when you come to university or things like that. I think it's more, yeah, we used to be like that, but we just keep the name.
Because is your little boy in school yet, Claire?
No, she's turning 2 in January. Ah, that's scary. It's scary, it's happening so fast. No, she's only 2, so we have another year.
Oh, my bad. I thought it was a little boy.
Don't worry about it. But yeah, she's turning 2 soon, so we have another year.
Oh, that's another weird thing. You
start school so early.
Yeah.
It's crazy early.
Yeah.
I thought I had like 5 years. No, I don't.
No, you need your time as a parent. You know, you drop them somewhere.
Okay, do you guys get the Flemish grant for schooling for spouse of Belgians? I didn't even know this was a thing.
I do. Oh, I qualify. I didn't apply in time. But yeah.
Oh, I'll have to look into that. Maybe for next year? I mean, it's not that expensive, though. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's why I forgot about it.
I mean,
you have a lot of different grants too. Like that is a grant, but you have so many different ways that if you can't pay for university, or especially I think it's if you need to go to a different city and you have to pay for a flat or something, you always have grants to allow you to do that. Yeah, you're not gonna have like the best flat or anything, but I think it makes it so much easier to study anything.
Well, see, I feel bad for things like that because I feel like I'm very lucky to be in a position where I don't actually need the money. So I feel bad for taking that if I don't need it. So I like that's so cool that they offer that. But at the same time, like from an American standpoint, it's like university is free here as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
3 years to get a bachelor's and it's going to cost me like 3,000 euros. And I know 3,000 euros is still a lot of money, but like 250,000 for a bachelor's. Like it's free. Even the books. I remember the 1 year that I did in university back home, like my books for the year cost like 1,000. And
how? Was it like real books? Like were they not like printed like we do in university?
No, they were like real books, and like each book was like $250 a piece.
Yeah, that would not work in Belgium.
And that was even me getting them like used.
Wow.
It was still that price. And I think
that would not work in Belgium.
I think this semester I maybe spent like $250 in total for my books, and I was just like, oh my God.
You know, it's funny because I watched your video when you were explaining that, and to myself I was like, oh, 250, that's quite a lot. And then when you said like in America it was like 1,000, I was like, what?
No, even my mom, I think when I was talking with her, she's like, were there other books that weren't included yet? And I was like, no, actually, because I even had to return books because I dropped classes. So I think in total I spent like 175 on books.
Yes, okay. To me it's still quite a lot, but I guess for America
it's not. It's like it's free. Like you could get a summer job and pay this off.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did. But to be fair, when I was a student, so we didn't really buy that many like real books. We had what's called a syllabus. So it's like printed pages that they just like they bound together at a university, and it costs nothing to get that. And the few times I had to buy a book, I actually didn't buy the book because we had the system of it's called like Godfather kind of thing, and it's basically you are matched with someone from the year above you, and so when they don't need their stuff, they just give it to you, and then you do the same for the next person under you.
Good.
I don't know if it's like, I think it is quite a thing that you have in many universities, but I remember doing that and I thought that was really clever because then I don't think I've ever bought a real book. I just got them all for free. So, and then I gave them back to the next person.
No, I think the most expensive book that I had to buy this year was my marketing book which I ended up getting through a lending service through one of my like book programs that I'm a part of because it was 70 euros. And according to the teachers, we weren't going to use the book. But they were like, but it's the Bible of marketing, so you should own it. I was like, okay.
Wow.
So I just used it. I got it through a lending service. And so it was free except for like the membership part that I had to be part of the lending program.
Yeah, I have no books this year.
Lucky.
Which is amazing because I also went to college in America briefly. And it's really interesting that the professors are often writing the books and insisting that you pay for way more than the book is worth.
Yeah.
They're making money off of selling you books.
So they're getting royalties every year because of all the students buying their books?
They require their own book.
That is
disgusting.
That should be forbidden by the university. It's ridiculous.
No, the one book that I bought for my literature class when I was studying in the US, we didn't even use it. And that book was like, I think that was the most expensive book that I got at like $300. And I remember being so pissed because we never used the book.
Yeah.
It was like,
that's what I need to do. I need to go to America and become a teacher in a university, and then I'll sell so many books.
That's what,
that's the game.
Yeah.
And my books are really too cheap for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another
£300.
Another thing that happens is that teachers will get kickbacks from, because there's like a whole company that makes like lecture books that they say, well, if you push our books, we'll give you like a finder's fee or a royalty or a cut or something. Yes. So they'll suggest this book that you will never use, but
oh my god, it's like an affiliate kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Oh yeah. See,
that's America.
No, see, that's why I keep telling like anybody that reaches out to me, just go to school in Europe. Like, don't go through an affiliate school. Just find some place that teaches an English program, apply to go there directly, because even if you're paying like the foreigner's fee, which is probably like going to be like $5,000 per year, that's still so much cheaper than what you would pay in the US. Because I think on average, like in-state tuition now is between like $20,000 to $35,000.
Yes.
Just don't do that in the UK. Because the UK is very expensive.
Yeah.
Very, very expensive. It's not as much as America, but it's on its way there. And it's the same. It's just to prevent most people from doing it, I guess.
Well, they could go to Vivis because I think the tuition for foreigners is like $5,000.
Yeah, see, it would be cheaper to do that.
And the program's in English, and it only takes 3 years. Unless you fail. Oh, the grading system is also so like different here. That's like
it makes me so happy. It's like I thought I did bad. I didn't.
No, okay, Claire, I have a question for you. Did you grow up with a system that like we'll say that B is the first loser?
What?
My parents would say that, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
No, okay, so I grew up with my mom who said A was average and like B is the first loser.
Yeah.
So you had to get A. And like not just A, but you needed to get like 100% or you just failed. And so it's so different coming over here where you have 20 and they're like, well, if you get 9.45, you passed and you succeeded. I was like, really? Because like 19 is the first loser. So
no, you can't get 19. It's like if you get 19, you're like very, very high.
No, somebody told me 20 is for God.
Yeah, you cannot get 20.
Is for the teacher, and 15 and below is for you. I was like, what the hell is this grading system?
So frustrating. That's hard for an American to understand because I don't know about you, Kathryn, but for me, you always wanted to get better than 100%.
Yeah.
If it was extra credit, you did extra credit.
Yeah.
If you had classes that gave more weight than a normal class, Like that would be worth more than another class. You took that class. You were trying to get over 100% all the time. So to come into a system where they're like, I expect you to get 50%. You're like, what?
But you have to pass every class, which I find is different than in America. You have to have a certain number of credits. So if you fail one, but you have enough credit, you can do it. In Belgium, you have to pass everything, but you just have to pass it. Like if you have more, that gives you a better grade, which means nothing outside of Belgium, which I have noticed because when I was at university, I was working very hard to have my grande distinction, which is like high honors, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like I was told, yeah, if you want to do a PhD, you have to have. Nobody cares. Even in Switzerland, they didn't care about that. So basically, if I had known that, I would have maybe not worked less, because that's me, and I don't think I could have worked less. And also, I didn't really go to that many classes, but it's just, it's a thing to get used to it. But the thing is, you have to you can't fail anything. So you have to be very careful with the options that you choose, because you have to pass all of them. At least that was the case when I was at university.
I think it'll be good, except for the fact mentally, it's like I'm going to fail all of them, but it's failing by like American standards. Yeah. I had my first test a couple weeks ago and I got an 8 out of 10, which is like, I cried. I literally cried when I saw that, because I was like, oh my gosh. And I kept telling myself, it's still good because I forgot about the test and I didn't study. But I was like,
you had an 8 out of 10 without studying, and you cried.
Because I failed. 9 is the first loser.
Okay, you need to reread my book with the chapter about perfectionism, because I think you need to read it another time.
Actually, I have been rereading your books just because this whole week with everything, I was just like, I need to distract myself. And I have found them very, very helpful. So like for the people watching, if you don't know, Céline has written these amazing books. The Part-Time Artist. Oh, there she goes. And I mean,
my example, because I sold all of the other ones, and because of COVID, I didn't order anymore.
No, those books are so useful. And I know I did a review for the mental health part, and I said, like, my mental health is really good right now. My mental health is not great. So I've actually been rereading that one. It's just like, oh, wow, this is so helpful. Like, really, like, I cannot wait till your third book. No, I think you said that it was going to be a fiction one.
Yeah, so this year, with everything that's been happening with COVID and everything, the fact that I had to go back to a full-time job, I've decided to kind of recenter around doing more writing and a bit less business kind of things. Mm-hmm. And I want to write another fiction book, because I had written a novel before those two, and try to get an agent for my fiction books. And then I'll write the third Part-Time Artist book. I know, I'm pretty sure what I'm going to write about, but I need it to mature a little bit in my head before I can put it in words.
So are you planning to go traditional publish then?
No. So my goal is to do a hybrid model.
Oh.
Sorry if it's boring, guys. I'm sorry.
It's interesting to me. That's all it's important.
So basically, for my non-fiction book, I want to retain all the control. So I can do workshops. I can do things like streaming videos, podcasts, even though I have canceled my podcast, but I can go on other people's podcasts and things like that without having to worry about an agent and a contract and everything. I want to treat it more like a business. Mm-hmm. So yeah, anything that is non-fiction that is linked to my website, The Part-Time Artist, is going to be self-published, and I'm going to retain everything, all my rights and everything. But for fiction writing, I am at least going to attempt to do it the traditional way. So yeah, trying to find an agent and then hopefully try to find a publisher. If that doesn't work, I will also self-publish that. But I feel like the marketing side of fiction is much more tricky than when you do nonfiction. When you do nonfiction, you have blogging and you have all of these stuff that publicize your book, because you talk about subject that a lot of people go through. But when you have to publish a story, it's much more difficult. So ideally, I would like someone else to do the marketing for me. And to do all the things like finding a nice cover, and then having like, although I have an amazing editor who works on all my books, whether it is fiction or nonfiction, but having a publisher, another kind of eye on a fiction book, I think is always a good thing.
Well, your current cover artist and whoever does the art for your book, they're like amazing. I love the little pictures in them.
Well, the first one, well, they both, the drawings are artists I find on Fiverr. And then the whole design of it, it's me and the artist. So we kind of decide, like the part-time artist that did the design of the cover from that illustration that I had ordered. And then the second one, I worked with the artist who basically she does covers, and I wanted something very similar but different. So it's very collaborative when you work with for traditional publishing. It's mostly you're not really into that thing. It's mostly the publisher who deals with that, which for my fiction, I'm actually quite happy with that. I feel like I have a bit more attachment to my fiction, and I think it's healthier if I'm not in the process of doing all of that thing. So I can concentrate on the next book. Because the most important for me is I continue writing. So yeah.
Because Claire, you were saying that you want to write essays. Would you ever publish them?
Yeah, I would. I do write essays. I love writing and reading personal essays. And yeah.
No, there's this book that I was reading that's They Only Laugh Later, which is a collection of essays from expats around the world talking about cultural differences. It's amazing. So if you write a book, I will review it on Book Dissect, because I didn't realize I liked essays until I found that book.
Mm. Yeah, it's a really great way to either find someone who's having the same experience as you, even though your experience is maybe special or not very common, or a way to connect with someone who's having a totally different experience and see what you do have in common with each other. It's nice.
But you also do drawings and art, don't you?
No, I model for drawings and art.
Ah, because the pictures that you post on Instagram, it's like, wow. I was like really jealous of your like artistic abilities.
No, yeah,
like,
I wish I did
like
those.
the photos that you have. It's like, wow, she looks so pretty.
Yeah, a lot of those were not done by me, and I wish they were.
But the subject matter is pretty, so that can be something you have on your essay, or not essay, but resume, or no, it's not that. What is it? CV.
Yeah.
I was a model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, why do you call it a CV over here?
It's from Latin. It's from Latin. It's curriculum vitae. It's from Latin. It's like the course of your life.
No, do you know what's really sad is in the CVO school, once you get to a certain level, they want you to make a CV. And I was like, what the heck is a CV? And she's like talking about it. I was like, this sounds a lot like a resume. And I was like so confused. And we're making these, and I think it was after I made them, I was like, is this supposed to be like a resume? And she's like, yeah, that's what a CV is. And I was like, oh.
That is so American, because until I worked in recruitment, I recruited people when I worked in theater. I had no idea that actually Americans called CV a resume, and so I would have people like who were American coming to London sending me emails saying like, "Oh, here's my resume," and for me, resume is like the French word which means summary. I was like, "Your summary? What are you talking about?"
That's one of those things that because I feel like everybody else, except for us, calls it CV.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
why?
one of
Yeah.
those words.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
why?
in the UK, it's CV also. It's not resume.
Like, that's the only thing. Like, I know people will say, well, wouldn't you want to change it over to the metric systems? Like, no. The thing that I feel like we should change is
Yeah, you
CV.
totally should.
Like,
Yeah,
that's it.
you should change both. You should change both.
No,
Definitely.
no, the metric
cup
system
thing.
doesn't make sense.
Oh my God, the
What do you
cup
think
thing.
makes
When you are
sense?
doing recipes and you're like, okay, I have a mug and I have an espresso cup. What kind of cup are you talking about?
But here's the whole thing. When it comes to cooking, it's about like the quantity, and I can envision like a cup of flour. I can envision a cup of sugar. Like I know how that is in cooking, right? But when you say 100 grams of flour or 100 grams of sugar, it's not exactly the same because like one of them is heavier, so there's going to be more in volume.
That's why you put the grams, because you know exactly.
Yeah, but then you need a scale. I don't need a scale when I cook. I can just like, yeah, that's enough.
No, because I don't have a cup. I have mugs. I have small cups, but I don't have a cup because I don't understand what a cup is. So I have to have a measurer, which is as annoying as having a scale.
Yeah, but see, I don't even use like cups because I know how much it is. I can visualize it without having to think. It's sort of like one of the most useful things about moving to Europe is that your tablespoons, like the big spoons and the little spoons, are actually a table and a teaspoon.
Yeah, they're measurements. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really useful for me. The only unuseful part is the butter, because we'll say like a table or a teaspoon of butter, and you just give us a big block of butter. And ours come in these like 4 little like what are like the cube cylinder? Yeah, sticks. 4 sticks. And it measures them out for like tablespoons and teaspoons. So I make butter. Yeah. So normally I just omit the butter and I just add yogurt as a replacement because I can visualize the yogurt better than the butter.
Oh, good idea. Huh. Okay, I have to hop off for a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah, cooking with American recipes is a bit weird. Also, you use different names for things that are just very, they mean, like, it takes me a while to just associate the thing, because in the UK you have words that are usually closer to French or closer to Dutch or whatever. So I can, but for example, cilantro, I'm like, what the hell is cilantro? What is it? Yeah, or what was the one that is? Oh yeah, eggplant. Eggplant.
Yeah, but don't they call it aubergine in the UK?
Yeah. So it's very easy. It's aubergine in French and aubergine in English.
No, for me that was so weird.
Yeah.
When I moved to aubergine, and then I was talking to somebody who spoke English from the UK, and they're like, "Oh yeah, an aubergine," and it's like, why are you speaking French to me? Like, what the hell? And it's like, no, it's the same word. Like, that's one of the really weird things because in Europe, like, the Queen's English is the standard.
Yeah.
But it seems like the American English, because of TV, is more popular, but still people will use the Queen's English term. So you'll have things like trolley for shopping cart. And for me, like a trolley is like a type of like above ground train. It's something completely different. Like I'm used to it now.
I think it's because you are taught the British English in school. I was definitely not taught the American, so the spelling, we were taught the British spelling and everything.
Yeah.
And from my personal experience, of course, I live in the UK, so of course I'm going to speak in the British English. And apparently I have a British accent, which that's what you said when I just, whatever. But I learned English with Harry Potter. That was like my main that was really the first time that I read a full book in English. And I also watched the films, so I got influenced with the accent and everything. So I think I am quite influenced by that, even though after that I worked mostly with Americans when I was in Switzerland. But I think, my first contact with English was really Harry Potter. That's when I started learning really the spelling of things and everything. So
you're like my role model when it comes to lingual skills, because I'm like, someday I'm going to be as good at Dutch as Céline is in English.
I don't know if I'm that good, to be honest. I think English is much easier to learn than Dutch.
When it comes to your writing, I'm always so impressed by it, because it's like, it makes me sad, because I think Céline speaks English as a second language, and she writes better than some native English speakers that I know. And that just like, it annoys me.
I have a good editor. That's all I can say. Vicky gets a lot of, she's a fantastic editor, by the way. If you're looking for an editor, you have to work with her. She is very, very good. She has a lot of work with me with all these sayings that work in French, but that don't work in English. But I think I moved to the UK partially because I wanted to improve my English to a point where my writing can be at the level of native speakers. And that was my goal. So that means I read a lot in English. I wrote a lot of stuff that are unpublishable, but got it corrected by people so that I would get used to how things are done. And also working in customer service helps tremendously when it comes to learning how to speak, but also how to use appropriate word, because otherwise a customer is going to scream at you if you use the wrong word.
Yeah. My mom worked in sales, so yeah.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
You have to find, because if you say the wrong word, that's when they start shouting at you. That's when they start, trying to fight you and everything. So that really, to be honest, working in customer service, when you move to a country that speaks a different language, that's the best advice I can give to someone who wants to learn the language very quickly, because you're gonna struggle very, very much at first, but you are going to learn so quickly. And working in theater, that means that I worked with a lot of people who were like me, coming from a different country, and English was not their first language. And I could see the progress they made in just a few months, just because you have to talk all the time with people who don't have the patience to wait for you to find the right word.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest thing, is that so many people don't know the struggle. And I think especially for native English speakers, because, we sort of have a reputation of only being monolingual, that they don't have the patience with foreigners. And that's one thing that I really like about your country, is that I don't think I've ever, so far, like knock on wood, have met somebody that was ever impatient with me. Like, they might switch over to English right away, and I have to be like, no, I need to work on my Dutch. And they're like, but I need to work on my English. Like, you don't live in an English-speaking country. No, you don't.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. I think when you live in Belgium, especially because you're American, when you live in Belgium, you want to meet people coming from America. Like, it's the dream. It's still the dream. And honestly, I told you, like, when you were talking about the bad experience you had in France, if I had met you at the time, I would have been over you the whole time, and I would have spoken my bad English to you, because I would have been like, I want to speak to you. You speak the language. I want to learn.
Here's a question for you.
Is Céline in London? Where does she go for decent beer? Oh, so yes, I live in North London. I've been living here for almost 9 years. I have today left. I am very excited. Actually, this one is quite easy to find in London. I find it in my local corner shop, which is great, because with the lockdown, where do you go? To find decent beer in London, I have loads of good tips. First of all, there's several pubs in central London that are actually themed. There's one Belgian one. It's great, but it doesn't have Chimay Bleu, which is my favorite beer, and it doesn't have it. But they have the other Chimay, so it's okay. I can't remember the name, but it's in near Covent Garden, and it's a Belgian one. There's several ones. There's the tourist one, which is Belga, something like that. This one is the tourist one. There's another one that is like, it's like going into a cafe in Brussels. It's fantastic. And then there's also a Dutch pub in the West End, which is where I used to work. So that's one that I've been to several times. It's near Chinatown. And they have also a lot of Belgian beers, which is really good. Now, if you want to buy bottled beers, Belgo, that's the salty popcorn. Yes, that's the one. Don't go to that one. That one it's just very touristy. Like even the food they serve, like they were like, oh, typical Belgian mussels, and then it's not. But you have also, like if you go, for example, to Borough Market, there is one stall that sells a lot of Belgian beers. They're very expensive, but it's totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Okay, I have a very interesting question for you.
Yeah.
In London, have you come across like Belgian stuff that at the end of the day really isn't Belgian, but it's marketed as this is Belgian?
So when I moved to London, at the very beginning, they used to have a Chez Léon restaurant, which is a chain in Belgium that sells mussels. But it disappeared pretty quickly. It was just in front of the theater that is now the Harry Potter theater. It's a place called Cambridge Circus, and it like I've never eaten there, but I could see the meals that they were serving, and it was kind of like the stereotype thing that actually Belgian people don't really eat. Also, they love putting a label on everything that has dark chocolate in it, saying it's Belgian chocolate, but it has no taste, so it's not Belgian chocolate. There is also, near where I live, there is this like fries place that is like, Belgian fries, amazing, blah, 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 blah. It's not. I can tell you, British people haven't mastered the fries art. They don't understand how to make them. It's as simple as that. It needs to be fried twice in different oil with different temperature. It's not difficult. And also they put vinegar on it, which defeats the purpose. The Hems Dutch Bar, that's the one, and the Lowlander Grand Cafe, that's the one. No, in Drury Lane. Oh no, I've never been to that one, the Lowlander, actually. So I don't know. You tell me. The thing is, it's difficult to, find people who want to go to a Belgian pub because it's usually, I would say it's usually a bit more expensive, and like things are really expensive in London. So you want to go to something a bit more expensive. But yeah, when I do that, it's a treat. It's really nice.
No, I find it really interesting when you go to other countries and they sort of sell your nationality as a thing, because it's like, no. Like I found in Belgium that you can find American bread, and it's like, it's bread that's literally the size of my face. And it's like, okay, I know that in America we have like big serving sizes of food, but I swear to God, like right hand up, our bread is not that big. Like, it's one of those things that when my mom and aunt came, I went out of my way to show them, like, look at this bread. And they're like, why is it American bread? Our bread isn't that big.
I have heard that the bread in America is always slightly sweet. Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, how? Why?
No, I think this is something that killed me after I'd been to Belgium, because we lived in France and you could only get baguettes. which don't get me wrong, like hoagie bread is great, but I wanted like bread, like in a loaf, which you can get in Belgium. It's like,
Yes.
like I know that France has this like they make the best bread. No, they don't. Belgium does. Belgium, like hands down, best bread in the world.
Yes,
Like
I agree.
amazing. Like the tiger bread. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And then you can get the panther bread, which is like the healthy because it's the whole grain version, but the unhealthy white bread is the best. But in the US, they add sugar and oil so that it lasts longer because it's in a bag and it's not fresh.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I died the last time I went to the US. I was like, I literally went because we have like this whole row of bread. Like there's so much bread that you can choose from. And I'm there like looking at the ingredients. It's like bread should not have 50 ingredients. It's water, yeast, and flour and salt. That's it. There's 4 ingredients. That's it. Like maybe like a handful of nuts and like some dried fruit if you're getting all fancy.
I don't know. I mean, here in the UK, the bread is also pretty not great. I think if you go to a bakery, it's so much better. But if you buy like the one in the supermarket, that is, not great either.
But even the bread at the supermarket is pretty nice. Like I was really culture shocked the first time that I went to a grocery store in Belgium because you have the bread section and like you get the loaf, you take the loaf, and then you have to cut it yourself. I was just like, I didn't understand it. I think the first time I bought bread, I didn't cut it because I didn't know that you had to. Because I think they had it prepackaged in the bag, so I just grabbed one and put it in the cart and went on my merry little way. And then I went home and I was like, why isn't the bread cut? And he's like, well, you're supposed to put it in the machine.
Yeah, yeah.
The machine.
That is not something you find anywhere else. That's really funny.
So yeah, I've been meaning to actually do a video of that, of like, okay, this is how you buy bread in Belgium, because I feel like that's going to be a mistake that anybody coming from America would make, because you don't think, oh, I need to cut my bread, because I don't think I've ever had the option to like, hey, do you want the bread cut? Because even if you go to a bakery, they ask you, do you want to cut the bread?
Yeah, because you might want to do it yourself. You might want like thicker slices and stuff like that.
That's even a thing, like at the bakery, like they have the nice cutting machines that they can like adjust like how thick they want it. So I remember going the first time to a Belgian one and they were like, do you want thin or thick slices? And they said it in Dutch and my Dutch wasn't that good. I was just like, yes. I was like, she asked it again. I was like, yeah, my Dutch really sucks. And that's when she just switched to English. I was like, wait, there are options?
That is funny. The things you take for granted when you come from a country. We have someone else saying hello. Ooh.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. I think one of the things that I get when I go back to Belgium that is kind of like reverse culture shock is that things close so early and then everything is closed on Sunday, and I'm not used to that anymore. And I feel like, how could I ever get used to that? Because I'm in London, everything is open all the time, you know, and you can go to the supermarket at 10 p.m. and it's still open.
I have that when I go back home. Like I just sort of, everything closes at 7. So I think, okay, I need to get shopping between this hour and this hour because that's when it's going to be open. And my mom will be like, well, no, you can go later. I was like, no, it's going to be closed. And she's like, it's open 24 hours a day. It never closes. And it's just, oh yeah. And see, there's this part of me that loves it. But at the same time, I've become so European with my mindset because I think, how many people are realistically going shopping between 12 and like 6 in the morning? And all of that electricity that's being wasted by keeping the store open.
I guess when you do like different shifts, when I worked in theater, it was quite nice to be able, after my shift, so I would finish around 11, to be able to go to maybe not like do a big shop, but just go to a small supermarket and just go buy something, and then I could eat. And when you have like strange schedule, I think in Belgium that's more difficult.
Yeah, but do you have strange schedules in Belgium though? Because I feel like all the schedules.
Yeah, you do. And my dad used to work shifts, so like 1 week he was working the morning, 1 week he was working the evening, one working was not working the night. So, but yeah, I guess you make do. You don't have a choice.
Because that's one of the things that I feel like culturally, like Belgium is sort of centered around families. Because it seems like the schools start at a certain hour and then work will start sometime after that, so that like if you have children, you have the option to take them to school.
Yeah, I guess yeah, I suppose that's true. I mean, otherwise how are you doing that? It's not possible otherwise.
Yeah, is that something like, because school buses really aren't a thing in Belgium.
No.
Like
that is so weird to see that in American like TV series and films, and you're just like, what the hell is that yellow bus doing?
No, like the school that my children go to, they actually have a bus. And I was so shocked by this because they were like, oh yeah, well, we can drive them home or we can also drop them off at their daycare. And I was like, oh my gosh, what?
Wow, that is an exception because I've never seen that around where I live. Definitely. Well,
yeah, so I was so shocked by that because at the kids' old school that they were going to, like they had a daycare center that was connected with the school, but they walked there. There wasn't like a bus or anything. There wasn't a choice. They went to this one daycare.
I used to live. So my parents live in a small village, so they don't live in the city. And so you had a bus like sometimes every half hour if you were lucky, sometimes every hour, which is most of the time. And so you better not miss the bus. You really better not miss the bus, because otherwise it's gone. It's gone. And when you don't drive yet, that is quite annoying because you can't go anywhere.
Yeah, I noticed that some of the school students, they actually take the proper city buses.
Yeah, that's what I did.
That's
the one that comes every hour, at least in my case, because I lived in a very tiny village. Yeah, that's what you do. This is it's kind of like that's the only way, because if you don't go with your parents or your parents don't work where your school is, well, you don't have a choice. That's what you have to do.
You didn't take your bike?
Oh, it was too far. It was too far.
That's like something that's also amazing to me is the bike culture over here. Like everybody takes their bike everywhere.
That is very much the north side of Belgium, though. The south is not like that. No. Yeah.
Oh, so you guys are like lazy?
Yeah. At least where I'm from. So that's the thing, is there's a big difference between the different areas, of course, in Belgium. And so where I'm from, you don't really have that much cycle lanes. So it's quite dangerous actually to cycle. You can do it. Some people do it, but it's not like you have a special place that is really protected. And so when you're a kid, your parents are never going to let you like go to the big city with the bike. It's too dangerous. It's not a thing that is done by many people. Maybe a couple do it, but it's not in a culture like you would have in Holland, for example. Like when you go to Holland, you have all of these bikes everywhere. And I think the north of Belgium has very much gotten that habit from Holland, or at least it's the same kind of culture. But I think the roads are better. There are specific lanes for it, which makes it less dangerous. So that is a big difference. Definitely much better in the north.
Okay, I have a question for you because you come from the French side.
Yeah.
And this is something that was like completely culture shock to me, because there was this one point where I went to this beer tasting, which was on the French side. And it threw me for a loop because we went over that imaginary lingual barrier between Belgium and like the French speaking and the Dutch speaking side. And then all of a sudden, all the city names changed.
Yeah.
And some of them look nothing alike, and that is just mean. Why do you do that?
I have no idea. My hometown, in French, it's Mons, and in Dutch, it's Bergen. That's
Why? Like,
it's so Mons comes from the Latin word for mountain, because it's a little bit on a hill. I mean, in Belgium, it's so flat that if you have a hill, it's a mountain, right?
yeah.
So that's where it comes from. And Bergen is from berg, which is the Dutch word for mountain, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think so. But
so
why not just give the French name for the French towns on the French side?
I don't know. You ask me.
Oh, you're the Belgian.
Honestly,
like,
it makes no sense to me. And when I speak to people from the north side, and I speak, for example, to Claire, and I would say Antwerp, because to me, it makes more sense to call it the name of the people who live there.
Yeah.
And Anvers, which, you know?
Yeah.
And the only exception would be Brussels, but it's fine because in Dutch it's Bruxelles, and in French it's Bruxelles. So it's like
it's the same.
Yeah,
like, I can understand when they're similar. Yeah, it's the ones that really changed, like Lille, which I know isn't on the French side. It's just in France, but in Dutch it's Recel.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make so much sense. I've never understood it. I don't agree with it. To me, it should be just one name, the name of the people who live there, and that should be it. But see, I mean, there's many things that don't make sense when it comes to Belgian division in terms of language. That's one thing I really don't miss. It's all of this like little fighting between each other when the country is so small. You should not really fight between each other just to say, oh, my side is better, my side is better. There's so much mess in terms of political like different things, and you have like the regions, and you have the different sides, but you have also the sides that are geographic, that have their own government, but you have also the sides that are by language, that are not exactly the same, so they have to have their own government too. And then you have the whole federal thing that never agrees, so we barely ever have a government when we have elections. That is ridiculous, and I think, to be fair, a lot of people living there find it ridiculous too, but that's kind of like a great game, a great way to spend time is just talking about the politics in Belgium.
Oh, I remember, like, I think this was a couple of weeks ago, and this is 100% my opinion, take it with a grain of salt, but I really feel like the Belgian system of government makes 1,000 times more sense than my own government, and it works so much better. I mean, half the time we don't even have a government.
After this week, I would have to agree. I think the thing is, every country, I've lived now in 3 countries. Yeah. And every country has its problems when it comes to organization, when it comes to politics, when it comes to all these kind of things. They're all different problems, but every country, like, nobody has a perfect system. Oh, no. Here in the UK, it's a completely different ball of problems, and at the moment it's very bad for a lot of people, including Europeans like me, because Brexit is gonna come in less than 2 months now, and it's very, very scary for us. But I think every country has a system that is imperfect, but the problem is with Americans, because it has a lot of influence on the rest of the world, it's probably more obvious. And also with the Orange Man, I think it has been made a bit more ridiculous and a bit more sensationalist than it has been in the past, I guess.
Oh, I have a question for you. So, is there something that you've learned either from Switzerland or your time in the UK that you wish, oh, I wish that this part of the government existed in my country?
There's one thing that I find really great when I was in Belgium was something they called consultation, I think. It's basically sort of like a referendum on things. Mm-hmm. And they would ask the population about many different types of things, many different types of issues. And I thought that was a very direct democratic system that you don't necessarily have in Belgium. So they would ask about different things. Some of them were quite bad. Don't get me wrong. The outcome was really bad because there was one thing about I think mosque or something like that just didn't really end up very well. But I think as a whole, it is great for government to kind of take the opinion of the population on a certain subject and then to make their own program as a political party depending on what people have said. So these referendums are not binding by any means, but it's a great way to say, okay, we are thinking about doing a legislation about this. What do you think? You know? And then you would have people voting about it, yes or no, or blah, blah, blah. So that was a good thing. In the UK, because the past few years we have seen all the negative things about the UK, which, of course, with the Tories and the Brexit and all the mess that's been going on with COVID and everything, we have seen a very, very negative side of the politics in the UK and people shouting at each other in the House of Commons and things like that, which is completely incredible from my point of view. Seeing like grown people just like shouting, calling themselves names between, like they are on two sides of benches. And like, yeah, like and these people are like lords and everything, and you just like, what the hell are you doing there? So that's quite a negative side. I think, let's say, what I like the most, I think, here in the UK is more the local side of politics, because you have all the things in the countryside and everything, but actually you have a lot of things happening in the local governments, because they are the ones dealing with everything that is to do with local, and in Belgium too. But I feel like I've seen, for example, local councillors coming on the Facebook local group and talking about an issue and being like, what do you think about this, and things like that. And I think that's another example of very direct democracy and very direct communication with people that I wish was the case everywhere else.
Yeah. No, I find that interesting what people would choose to take away and bring back home. Like the two things that I really love about Belgium is, first of all, voting is compulsory for everyone.
Yes. Oh my God. I wish it was the case everywhere. That is ridiculous. It's not the case everywhere.
Well, I think Belgium is one of two countries that does that. Like, it's not a thing anywhere else. And that, like, that should be a requirement that, yeah, if you're going to live in a country, you should have to vote. Like, yeah.
It's in Belgium, it's seen as a duty, not a right.
Yeah. That's, you should have to do it. And then the second thing is the multiple parties that you have. Like that, I love that, because really nobody cares about the exact same things. And so I've often wondered, like, because I do plan to become a Belgian citizen someday, like which party would I vote for? And it's like, hands down, the Green Party, because that's what I care about. I care about the environment. All the other stuff, like, as long as you're not screwing me over, like, you do you. I don't care. But, like, the environment, having bike lanes, like, reducing the carbon, like, all that stuff, that's what I care about. But, like, the two-party system, it's like, because there are things that, like, for blue, I care about, and for red, I care about. But it's not like, oh, I'm 100% this color. It's like, no, I normally choose, like, the candidate that, and it's normally like one thing. Okay, this person has talked about these things that I care about, and there's one more that he's talked about that this candidate hasn't. And like in Belgium, I like that you could just be like, oh, I'm really into the environment. I'm going to go with the environment person. And then they have to make a coalition with all these different other parties to get the majority. So it's like everybody wins.
Yeah, I think it's much less. Like, I feel in America and here in the UK is exactly the same. You position yourself as being against the other person. And so your whole program is being against that person. Well, when you have a multi-party kind of country, you are pushing your program. And I think it opens yourself more to to innovation and to bring more ideas. But the counter to it is that, as we've seen in the past few elections, it's very difficult to build a government because you have to compromise with different things that might be quite far from each other. So, and especially when you have like a party that's nationalist, like a certain party in the north of the country, it's very difficult to reconcile that with parties that are very much let's stay together and very and not separate and everything. But I think that's why the politics never get as emotional as it gets in America. I mean, I literally do not understand when I see people whose whole identity is that guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the name.
Well, like, you know what I also find interesting about Belgium is you guys don't do attack ads. Like in the US during the presidential election, you'll have, would you want to vote for this guy who does this? And it's just like all this blah, 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 like negative. Like
it's not allowed. It's not allowed. There's a very, very strict election rules in Belgium. It's very, very strict. And if you break them, you get a big fee, a big fine.
And then your election is so short.
Yeah.
Like so short.
Yeah,
like
in America, you've been talking about an election for like a year. What the hell, man? Did you
longer
have
than that?
Like
2 years, really?
Yeah. It's just it's not as TV worth the time of people. You know, people they want to see the result, and then they want to see their film after that. You know, people don't really care. Like, yeah, there are debates. Like there's the famous Sunday lunch debate that my parents never miss, and I'm sure on the north side of the country there is also Sunday debate with they invite politicians and they talk for half an hour and then nobody goes anywhere because they just talk and talk and talk. But then when it's done, it's done. You know, you don't need to just like and to me, like, I would never ever, like, outside of elections where you will have people who have posters of their candidates and everything because they know them or because they owe them a favor or something, you would never have someone with like a sticker, Georges-Louis Boucher. It's like, and I'm saying him because I know him, I went to school with him. So, but I would never be like, oh yeah, I'm him, you know, Belgium great again. Like, that makes so zero sense. Like, I've seen people on Reddit who literally got married and the wedding dress was a photo printed on the wedding dress of Trump, and it's just like, zero, like, don't you have anything else that you care about than a politic? Because I think in Belgium, like, politicians are not seen as these big men that is so important. They are often ridiculized. Like, literally, we make fun of them all the time. And so it would never come to my mind to just be like, yeah, I admire you so much, I'm just gonna put like something on my lawn with your poster, like that guy 2020. Doesn't make zero sense to me.
I think it has to do with the length of the election, to be honest. Like, if you are perpetually seeing advertisements for this one person for like over 2 years and you identify with him, like, that's a 2-year connection that you have. Because I was really shocked when I started seeing advertisements for like the election, because I was expecting like, oh, elections must be next year. And they were like, oh no, it's next month. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, because you have rules on that too. You can't do anything until a certain date before the election. You know,
yeah, I was freaking out because, like, oh my gosh, I'm such a horrible person. Like, I miss all the election stuff. And I'm like, no, it just started. It's like, but the election's only in a month. And I'm like, yeah. It's like,
you don't need that much time to make up your mind. I mean, you don't need 2 years to decide, especially in America, you have 2 years, let's say, to decide between two people. In Belgium, you have like 12 parties and you have 1 month. It's just more efficient that way, you know?
I do agree with that. I like the cycle that it's just, it's like, it's really short and then you're done. And then it's like, okay. Although I do enjoy, like, Because I was actually here that one time where they didn't have a government for, what was it, like 500 plus days.
Who knows?
Like, that blew my mind. Like, I was freaking out about that. And all the Belgians were like, oh, yeah. I mean, like, do we really need a government? I mean, like, what do they do? And I was like, I was worried. I was like, are you okay? Do you need to talk about it? And they're like, no, we're good.
Used to it. We're used to it. There's like every election, especially lately, like when there's a big majority for a big party, like there used to be a bit more majority, I think, for the big parties than the small parties. And then there's more small parties now than there used to be too. So it was a bit easier. So now it takes a bit longer to make a coalition of a government.
Yeah.
But it's fine because in Belgium you have so many levels of government. I don't think anyone understands, if you're not in Belgium, that you have so many levels of government that if the top one is not there, the other ones are there and they're working and they're fine. They just need the top one for some decisions, but they don't really need for like the day to day. So it's like in America, if you don't have a government, like everything closes. I think like the parks close, the schools close, the libraries close, and everything. Here, if you don't have a government, you're just kind of like, You know, I don't even care. Like I've discovered that they changed the prime minister from the temporary one to the real one, like 2 weeks ago, I think. Because you just don't. As long as some levels are working, and usually the regional levels and the local levels, they are working pretty well. They don't really need too much to have an agreement and everything. It's fine. I think that's one thing about Belgium that I miss is that this kind of like way of thinking that things like that, they're just not big deal. You know, politics, it's not a big there's a way of kind of not making too much of a big fuss about things that I think is missing in the UK and especially in America, where everything is news and everything is such a big thing, and this guy said that and that guy said that and that, and it's big news. And it's just like in Belgium, it would just be like
a day.
Yeah.
No, because Belgium recently got its government, and it was just like a blip on the TV, and I missed it. Because I remember asking Prince Charming, like, do you guys have a government yet? Because I was thinking, I'm going to make a video on it. And I was like, well, no, I'm going to put that off. And I was like, I swear, once I think to do the video, that's when they're going to get a government. And sure enough, I was like, do you guys have a government yet? Because I was thinking about doing this video. It's like, oh, yeah, we got it like a couple of weeks ago. I was like, when did this happen?
Yeah, I missed it too. I mean, with COVID, who cares, really? Like,
No, Claire, here's a question for you. Is there anything from politics in Belgium that you think we could just take and like apply to the US? That's like, let's steal this idea.
Mandatory voting.
See?
Would be helpful. I would enjoy that.
I voted for that too. Mandatory voting.
This is so weird to me to see that in America in such a very important election that you've had, you still had only like 60 something, 66, 68 or something % of people voting, and they were like, oh, that's a really good turnout. And I'm like, what? That's not a really good turnout. That's really not. Like, what happened to these people? Did they just not care?
They probably had to
feel discouraged.
They probably had to work, to be honest.
Yeah, well,
it's on a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday. Yeah, that is ridiculous. That's true. Okay, yeah, fair enough. It just makes zero sense to me.
Because I know, like, for me, my mom actually used to take a vacation day, like, off from work, and she would, like, write a note, yeah, Kathryn's not coming to school because we're going to go vote, and she'd make a whole day of it. And my mom would actually have this little speech that she prepared telling me that if I never voted, I was defecating on all the women who risked their lives so that I could have the privilege to vote. And if I didn't vote, I was a garbage person.
Wow.
Yeah, I get the same speech. but the black version. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so like this whole thing, like I know that there are people who don't vote, but like if you're a woman or you're a person of color and you don't vote, like I can't imagine it, because it's like so many people fought so hard just to have that right. And the fact is it should be a right. It's a civic duty that everybody should do. Like it just, like if you're a white man, okay, you don't have to vote. That's been like your thing since forever. But like, no, if you're a woman, no. Like it doesn't matter even what color you are. If you're a woman, you vote.
I think also you understand that when you are actually prevented from voting, because at the moment, because I'm in the UK, I can't vote for the federal elections, which is very, very frustrating, because of course that's what's decided. Like I couldn't vote when the Brexit referendum came, and it was going to influence my life way more than most people who voted. And then I can't vote for the government, and of course it didn't really go the way I wanted it. And when you are not legally allowed to vote, then it should make you like realize, like, yeah, voting is so important, and if you can do it, you should really, really do it.
Well, I have a question for you, because my understanding is that if you're part of the EU, you're allowed to vote for local elections, just not the federal ones.
So I could vote for the mayor of London, which I'm really happy who is mayor at the moment. But yeah, I can vote for local, but it also depends. Of course, now with Brexit, who knows what's going to happen. But when I was in Switzerland, because it was not it's part of Schengen, but it was not part of Europe, then I couldn't vote for any elections in Switzerland. However, I can still vote for European Parliament. And here in the UK, well, I could do that in the latest elections, but you have to choose. So you can't vote like, I couldn't vote like here and then vote like absentee ballot in the Belgium too, because otherwise I would have voted twice. So yeah.
Oh, so you only get one choice.
For European, yes.
Ah, okay, like that. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because otherwise we would have voted twice, and that's not legal.
Yeah, because we can't vote.
Yeah.
And that annoys me. That's one of the reasons why I want to become a citizen, because it's like the choices that the people make here affect me.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like voting should not be linked to your nationality. That's my personal choice as that. It should be linked to if you're paying taxes or not, because you're contributing to the country, so you should be able to do that. But obviously I understand it's a lot of legal ramification to that, and that's nowhere near to change. But I feel like when you live in a different country for several years, you would like to have a voice and a voice without having to change your passport, because your passport is more, at least in my opinion, is more than a piece of paper. It's your identity, is where you're from.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't keep, depending on which country, you can't keep your original passport. I don't know how it's going to work for you guys. So if you change your nationality, can you remain American? Can you have the double nationality?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's good, at least.
Yeah, but I'm probably going to renounce, to be honest.
Yeah, for tax reasons and other reasons.
That's not a reason.
Yeah.
Because legally by me, that cannot be a reason. So that's not a reason.
That's not the reason then.
No. Well, no, it's just realistically, like, I don't see myself going back to the US. So really at this point, just having American nationality is more of a burden than anything else. And so I'd rather just be Belgian.
But isn't it like renouncing? Isn't it like kind of renouncing your past or something? I'm trying to understand, because I don't want to renounce my nationality ever.
Well, see, this is something that I've honestly been struggling with for like years. So it's not like, oh, I woke up this morning and I thought about this. Like, this is something that started probably like when I had my children in France, because like I never considered like becoming French or renouncing my citizenship until my children were born in France. And I was thinking, oh, they're going to become French, except like the laws over here with citizenship is very different than in the US, because it's based on blood and not where you live. And that was like the first time that I ever considered being French, because I didn't want my children to be a nationality and not have a parent that shared that with them. But then that sort of went out the window because they weren't going to be French at all. They were just going to be American in Belgium. But when we moved here, I was thinking, like, half of my family is Belgian now. And my roots are in Belgium now. And the likelihood that we're ever going to, like, America would have to change so much. I mean, realistically, we looked into this, I think, I want to say it was probably 5 years ago now. And everybody was saying, the people who I reached out to, you need an immigration lawyer if you want to move your family to the US. And I was like, what? An actual immigration lawyer? Like, I went from the US to Belgium, no issues, no lawyer. And they're like, oh yeah, you need to consult one. So I sent an email off. And this is after being married for 5 years, knowing each other for 10 years and having children. And they were like, yeah, you're probably going to be a high risk couple because, like, you guys aren't the same race. There's like a disparity in how much you make and in your education. And I was like, okay, no offense, but you realize out of both of us, like, I'm the loser in the group because he's the one that makes more money than me.
Yeah, I don't think they really care about that much. That is so disgusting.
Yeah, but yeah, I was told that, like, the chances of me being able to get my husband into the US was going to be really difficult because it's like I know that the US is racist. Like, I know that. I lived there. I grew up. But it was just like you really this racist? Like, come on. Just like that, like the whole racist issue would need to really change in the US, because I lived in France for 10 years. I've lived in Belgium for like 3 years. And I've never, not once, been asked, hey, are they yours in regards to my children? I've gone to the US twice with my children, and every single time it's like, oh, are they your children? It's like, why would I be out in public with 2 little children unless they were mine? And they're like, but they don't look like you. And it's like, well, you don't look stupid, but here we are. And that, I hate that question so much because it's like, let's just pretend that, give them the benefit of the doubt and I adopted my children, even though I didn't. Why would you say that in front of them?
It's such a stupid thing to ask, regardless, whatever the situation is. It's just...
And like the whole thing is, if this would not be a question if they looked white. Like, that's the whole thing. It's the fact that they looked mixed and they don't look as light as I do. And it's just, oh my gosh, it makes me mad.
Yeah, no, I got the same thing as a kid growing up in the US. My mother is very pale, and we go walking down the street and people are like, oh, you babysitting? Whose kids are those? It's like, you think she just got some children to follow her around?
The sad thing is I got that with my mom too, because my mom is mixed, and like I am so pale. Like I am like the vampire of the family. Like, people look at my mom and me and they're like, that's your mom? Are you adopted? Like, I had such a complex growing up because they were like, you look nothing like your mother. And like, I have her hair. I have like the shape of her face. I am the spitting image of my mom. It's just, I'm deathly pale. That's like the only difference. We're different skin tones. And they're like, are you adopted? It's like, no. And like that's not a thing that seems to come up over here. And like, I'm not saying that like Belgium's perfect when it comes to racism,
yeah, no, it's definitely not.
But I at least can go out with my children and people don't ask me, are they yours? Like, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think it's probably less forward, but I think there is still quite a lot, at least where I'm from. There's still like comments that are not acceptable. But
well, I've always compared it that I feel like the racism in the US is like up here, and like the racism in Belgium is like down here. So if you're coming from a place where it's up here and you go down here, it just, oh my gosh, it's not racist.
Yeah, I suppose
Like, it's
like you're
amazing.
coming from this place where it's so obvious to everyone, and it's just
Because I still see stuff, but it's like, it could be worse. Like, that's like my mindset. It's sort of like the whole school thing. Like, yeah, 1,000 euros is a lot of money, but it could be worse. Like, that's where my mind goes. Like, yes, people are racist, but like, people don't get shot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to worry about my husband going out and getting shot. Like, he went on a road trip to the US, and my whole thing, it was like, don't go out at night. Don't speed. Don't get pulled over. Like, please don't get shot while you're there. Because I was just thinking, like, that was my top worry. That, like, because he's not white.
Yeah, no, I can totally imagine that's the first thing you think about. Just because it's so, but I feel like this is something that, you know, it's so talked about. That is the first thing that you're going to think about. But then when I see so many people from there, it just doesn't even cross their mind at all, just because they're not Black or because they don't have family who's Black or anything. And it's so very weird because it feels like from the outside, you have a more objective view of what it is. And when you are in there, you are so like bombarded with all of this and everything that you just don't see what's right in front of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You guys who are kind of like half in, half out.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. Yeah. It's just, I mean, there's still work to be done, but like, I don't know, like, there's just so much broken back home that it feels like I never, like, I don't know. People say make America great again, and it's like, why don't we just focus on the future and just make the future great again, or great for our children? That, like, we wouldn't need to worry about this BS. Like, I would love that. Because that's something that really hurts my heart, that, like, I have children and I'm thankful that they don't have to grow up in the US. And it's just because I know, well, I shouldn't say, I know based on my experiences, because I come from a mixed family, even though I don't look it. And so I do have this, like, ability that, hey, I look white, so people were nicer to me. But, like, people would still say stuff and would be like, if they knew my background, they wouldn't have said that in front of me.
Yeah.
Like, at all. And it was just like, so I had this ability to hide. And, like, I'm thankful for that. But at the same time, it's like, I shouldn't have to hide. And so that's like, I don't know if they're going to have that issue in Belgium. Maybe they will have issues. I don't know. But I feel like it's not as bad as it would be in the US. Like, that's just my opinion. I don't know. I'm sure that there are people who have had horrible experiences who would say, like, no, it's going to be just as worse. But it's like, they at least won't get shot.
It's always that.
They won't get shot.
Yeah, it really depends on where you are, though.
Yeah,
like,
it depends on where you are in Belgium, I think.
I've lived in a couple areas of the province of Antwerp, and there was the first place that I moved to. I heard and experienced some really horrible things. There was this one day I was out at a market, and there were just these old white men kind of standing around, and one of them starts yelling that they should round up all the Moroccans and put them in concentration camps and kill them like they did with the Jews.
Oh God.
And that's literally what he says, but in Dutch. And then like everyone starts clapping and cheering, being like, yeah. And it's like, we have to go.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, like, we're just at the market, like having a nice day. And it's like, someone feels comfortable saying that in public, and people in public are comfortable cheering for that.
See, that freaks me out, because that's the kind of stuff I expect in the US.
Yeah, it depends on where you are.
Like, what the heck?
I think in the past, let's say 10 years, it has been much more socially acceptable to do things like that in public. It used to be, at least where I'm from, and again, it depends on where places, but it was a bit more, you would be shamed for do something like that, let's say 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And then with everything, like, there's been so many changes, and especially I think when it comes to people from the Middle East, with all the problem with terrorism and everything, it's kind of has become the brand of some people to be like, yeah, like these people, blah, blah, blah. And it's not followed anymore by people shaming you for seeing these things. So the more they say it, the more it becomes acceptable. And it's coming the same for Black people. It's coming the same for Asian people and everything. And I feel like that is something that has not changed in the right direction. I feel like nowadays you are not, like, I think because social media, because they can say everything in there, so they start saying that also in real life now. And yeah, you'll be very surprised by how many people actually share these views and actually just never said that in front of your face before. But then again, it really depends on where it is. You will have very remote, rural kind of places who are going to be much more racist, and then you go to a bigger city. Like, so many people talk about Brussels. I lived in Brussels, and Brussels is very fantastically multi-ethnic and multi-nationalities, and it's like any big cities like London is exactly the same. Because you meet people from many different places, you have much less of these problems. You still have problems, of course, but it's not as bad as most people think when they don't live in Brussels or they don't live in London. But then you go to my home area, and there are some villages where if you are Black, you will stand out. And part of my family is Black, and they stand out. And that's the reality. And I'm really lucky that my family is like, we have all the nationalities in my family. I have 2 nationalities myself, so I'm very lucky. But we were an exception, as opposed to everyone just being from Belgium, quite, from that village.
It takes like such a special kind of stupid to hate somebody for like their skin color. Like, can you not come up with something better?
I think it's a lot to do with fear, more to do with intelligence, in my opinion. I've seen very smart people saying stupid things like this. I think it's really to me a question of fear. It's just that person is different. They're gonna steal my job, and they are going to have a different way of approaching things, and they are coming with their own traditions that don't align with me, and I don't want to adapt. And I think a lot of people feel that their own tradition and their own identity is going to be erased, which is ridiculous. But I think there's a lot of that, more than really a lack of intelligence or a lack of information.
Well, see, for me, that would be ignorance, because they think that way, that like, oh, this person is a threat. Like really, like, Claire, did you come to Belgium to steal people's jobs?
Yes.
Jobs out the wazoo.
So you're going to go to all these IT jobs and be like, go away, the Belgians. I'm going to take your job.
See, I don't think realistically that's like the whole thing. Like, she married a Belgian. She just wants to make her life here. Like, I married a Belgian. I'd like to make my life here. Like, that's it. It's not like, oh, let's destroy Belgian culture, except for applesauce. That's the only thing. I want to change applesauce. It's supposed to be eaten cold. That's it. And pumpkin.
Okay, I protest. You are not going to change the applesauce. The applesauce is sacred. And also, the light in the middle is orange. It's not yellow.
It's yellow.
It's
yellow.
No. Do you want to know something funny? Is that there's a Belgian guy who actually follows my videos who went out and took a picture of a traffic light and did like some color thing to find out what the actual color was. and it's actually yellow-orange.
Okay, there's someone in the chat saying orange.
Okay.
So it's 2 against 2. If anyone
It's
else is there,
yellow.
please vote because it is orange.
Actually, it changes colors depending on where you live. Because I think in Australia, it's amber. In France, it's orange-yellow. So it's this thing that changes color. And I did not know that.
I have to say that we have very big priorities in this chat. We have to solve the problem of the colors of the traffic lights because this is not possible. And we have to have one convention, and that's it.
Okay, no, here's a question for you. What do you do when it changes to orange?
You slow down. If you can stop, you stop. That's the law. That's literally the law.
Is it really?
Yeah.
No, for me, it's you speed up so that you don't hit the red light.
No.
You should,
Kathryn, no.
Literally, when you get your driving license, this is one of the questions. When you have the light changing to orange, you have to, if you can stop, you stop. If you can't stop, then you have to be away as quickly as possible. Like you can speed up a little bit to be away from the intersection, but yeah, you have to slow down.
Okay, well, no, here's something that I've noticed that in Belgium, they slow down before the light. So, like, if the speed limit's 90, they'll slow down to 70 when a light's coming up, just in case it turns orange. And that annoys the crap out of me. It's like, no, you just keep going 90, and if it turns orange, hit the brake. Like, if that's what's happening, like, yeah, that's what I'll do. But if it turns orange, and it's like, okay, if I hit the brake, like, I'm going to, like, it's going to, like, do one of those things. Like, I'm just going to run it. But, like, if I'm far enough away, I'll stop. But people anticipate it turning orange before it turns. It turns, and it's just, no. I don't like those
move
people.
here. Move to Antwerp because people drive like you.
It's like, people, you know who you are, you're not doing it right.
I think it's probably local people, I would say. I don't know.
People in Antwerp are crazy. It's a big city. Well, it's a small city with lots of people in it. So people are just driving very quickly, disregarding rules, disregarding lights. They're just going. So
yeah, I've driven a few times in London. It's scary. It's terrifying.
Do you find that people are aggressive in their driving in Antwerp?
Yes.
Really? Like, yes. I find that people are so unaggressive when they're driving, especially like when they're going into like lanes. Like, you know, when you go off an exit and you need to change lanes, it's like, do. Let's wait till I get to the end of the road. It's like, what are you doing? Just get in the lane. There's nobody there.
Yeah, you haven't driven in Brussels.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
People are crazy. Yeah.
People make me mad. And I don't feel like I'm an aggressive driver, but like, you have like these extra long lanes when it comes to like merging into traffic versus like in the US, it can literally be this long. It's like, just do it. But in Belgium, you have like these really long lanes. Like people will literally wait till the end of it before they like merge into the traffic.
I mean, again, in Brussels is very different.
Yeah, I think that's where you are.
I live where the farmers are.
Okay, make room for the tractors.
Okay. In London, do the truck drivers have a maximum speed limit?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Okay, that was a culture shock for me when I first moved to France, because they have like a maximum speed limit. I think it's like 90 or something.
Yeah, they have a different speed limit than cars.
Yeah,
is that not the case in America?
No. If it is, like, that would be news for me. But my grandfather was a truck driver, and like they didn't have a speed limit unless that changed recently.
It must be by state or something. Perhaps.
Like your state's more progressive. That's why you're all hippies and crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true.
California. Were you near LA or not at all? Because I know that California is so big, and we all think about Hollywood.
Like 8 hour drive away from there.
Were you close to a beach?
I was close to the coast, which is to say, technically yes, but very cold and rocky. It's
Okay,
not like
well,
the fun beach.
is it like close, like American standards, or close Belgian standards?
Close American, it's like an hour
Oh yeah,
without traffic.
like right there.
Yeah,
I don't know,
basically.
you can be in Germany, in Belgium.
I know.
No, that's like where we live, we're 30 minutes away from a beach. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so close. In fact, one of my husband's friends, like their family lives 15 minutes away. And I was like, oh, that must be so nice. You guys must see each other all the time. And they're like, they're 15 minutes away. And I was like, uh-huh, yeah. And they're like, that's so far. And I was like, when I was younger, my grandparents lived 2 hours away, and they expected us to come and visit them every single weekend.
2 hours away every single weekend?
That's normal.
That's like, my mother-in-law is an hour away, and when I thought that we'd have to go there every weekend, she was like, but you're an hour away. That's so far. I
mean, that is so weird. There are people who live on the other side of London that I never see because it's the other side of London and it takes an hour to cross London because it's too far. That is very weird. Like I would never do like something like that, going 2 hours away. Like I have family in France, in the north of France, and they are kind of like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And we would go from time to time, and it's great and everything, but we would never go like every weekend because it's just people have stuff to do. You don't have time to drive all of that. Time.
Oh, that's so funny from my perspective, because far away from me starts to be after like 10 hours. Like that's when far away is.
My God, 10 hours would be like in Denmark, I think. No, but you know, one thing that really made me laugh when you did one of your videos about the difference between Belgium and America was that if you go to someone, you have to let them know that you're coming on that date at that time.
Oh yeah.
And like to me, that is like, yeah, of course you do. Why would you just show up at someone's place? That's so rude. Just like never realized that for Americans, like this is the thing. And when you see it in TV series or in films, it's not like just the plot. It is a thing.
Yeah.
It's
no, like
for me.
I could
like,
get on a plane tomorrow and just arrive at my mom's house, and it would be like, yeah. Like my mom could arrive tomorrow and be like, oh my gosh, you're here. I mean, it would be weird because it's COVID, but I mean, totally normal.
If I without let's talk like a post-COVID imaginary world. If I would go like today and show up at my parents, they would be like, what the hell are you doing here? We're not ready. We have nothing. Just come back tomorrow, you know. It's just like, I mean, no, they would of course, like if I come from a different country, they would be fine. But you know, it's just very weird. You would just go and be like, oh, can I come this weekend? And then they'd be like, yes, or they'd be like, no, I'm busy. Leave me alone.
No, see, that's like there would never be a time. Like if my mom was busy, she'd probably just be like, yeah, I'm not going to be in at that time. There's nothing I can do about it, but I'll leave the key like here. Just go in, make yourself at home. Like there's absolutely nothing that could come up like in her life or my life where it'd be like, oh no, you can't come. Like even if like somebody was like, yeah, so we're surprising you. We're going to come. We'll be there in like 3 hours. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to be in school, but I'll leave the key here so that you can get in the house. Like it would not be a thing.
Stress me out. I mean, with my anxiety, I'll be like, oh my God, and the flat is not clean, and I have nothing, and I have another, and in my mind, I was ready to spend this day alone, so I can't deal with having people today. I'm sorry.
Well, no, see, that's the whole thing. Like when it's your family, like they don't expect your house to be clean, and you'll probably be like, yeah, by the way, the house isn't clean. I'm sorry, and I'll stop at the grocery store to buy some food. Is there anything that you want? Like that's how it would be. Like most
we have a very different family.
Like even with my mom, because we have to sort of schedule it for me to go home. I imagine that it's the same for Claire because it's like it's this big plane ride. Somebody has to come pick me up.
Yeah.
Like normally she won't do the grocery shopping until I get there. so that we can go to the grocery store together, so that we can go up and down the aisle, so that she's like, is there anything that you want? And I'll be like, no, Mom, there's nothing that I want. And I'll be like, oh, wait, no, here are Pop-Tarts. Oh, and there are Cheetos. Oh, and there are Cheez-Its.
Yeah, my mom does the exact same thing, and I'm exhausted. I'm like fresh off the plane, and like I just want to sit down. And she's like, "Do you want Texas toast? Do you want Cheerios? Do they have Cheerios in Belgium? I'm getting Cheerios." Like, can you go home?
Okay, I have a very important question. What are the snacks that you miss the most from America?
Crackers.
Crackers?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Like Cheetos, Triscuits, like basically anything that you would have with cheese. Because cheese for me is eaten on a cracker and not bread. And that's like one of my biggest pet peeves.
That is funny because we have that in the UK, and I never really paid attention about that in Belgium, because in Belgium I eat it on bread, but in the UK I eat it on crackers.
Yeah.
That is weird.
No, but do you know combos?
Yeah.
Oh, I love combos. Combos is like a pretzel, and then it has like a filling.
Like the filling, yeah.
Yeah, and my favorite is pizza. Basically, any
pretzel.
Yeah, basically any junk food that was probably banned in Europe because of like the fake ingredients. Like that's what I miss.
So you more like savory things. So not like too sweet, just more savory things.
I don't like American like mass-produced sweets. They're too sweet and like fake. Like I don't want like a Twinkie.
Yeah,
like, those aren't good. I can't think of anything that I really, really miss that's sweet.
Brownies are nice.
I can make brownies.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But like you can't find pre-made brownies in Europe.
No, they're garbage.
Yeah, you guys don't know how to make brownies or cookies. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I only really like the brownies that I make myself. That's probably because of that. I never really liked brownies until I tried to make myself, because we had this like bake off, the Great British Baking Show thing. And I was like, yeah, I can do something. And then I made brownies and it was delicious. So yeah, I don't really like any sweet thing that much, but yeah.
Okay, I will say I like cake, as we define it in America as like the cake and frosting, versus like in Europe, it's just the cake without frosting, which is just
okay.
why.
So that's the thing that we have with my fiance from Norway. He loves all the frosting and all the stuff that you have around the cake and also inside the cake, the filling and everything. I like a dry cake. The 4 is like a vanilla cake that we make, and it's very, very simple.
Oh yeah, I know that one. My husband loves that.
It's so good, and it's not too sweet, because I don't like very sweet things. That is something. And I have that with a very dark coffee, and I have like this bitterness and everything, and it's perfect. And my fiance is like, but it's not cake. It doesn't have all the stuff and everything. So when we have cake, literally, we went to Scotland and we went to this museum, and I had like some lemon cake, and it had this frosting, and I gave him the frosting, and I just had the cake.
It's perfect. It works out.
Yeah.
That's like the thing that my husband makes, the 4-4, because I think it has 4 ingredients or something.
Yes.
And whenever I have it, like I'll take a slice and I have to have like speculoos or Nutella or honey on it, because it's just like it's just not good.
Perfect. We'll have that with coffee. To be fair, anything that I can eat with coffee that works well with coffee, I'm gonna like, because the coffee is the star. But
I miss cookie options in the US, because you only seem to have like, I swear, like the flavors here are like chocolate, hazelnut, and then vanilla, and that's it.
So what else do you have?
Ginger snaps. Like I miss ginger snaps. Like that's my cookie that I make and I give out to people.
What is
ginger snaps?
Okay. Ginger snaps is like the better version of speculoos, to be honest.
There's nothing better than speculoos. I do not agree about that.
No, a ginger snap is it's a spice cookie. It has cinnamon, nutmeg, and clove, sometimes some allspice, but it's a very spicy cookie.
Oh,
Like,
okay. So it's like the equivalent of the ginger. How's it called?
yeah, like gingerbread.
The ginger biscuit they have here
Yeah.
for Christmas. I make that one. I liked it. I liked that too. But it's not as good as speculoos.
But no, like the cookie, it's like when you break it, it makes a snap.
Yeah.
Like it's
That's a very
you
good
would love it because it's the perfect cookie for coffee. Like it's a very dry cookie, and you dunk it, and it's so delicious.
No, I don't dunk things in my coffee.
You're weird. We can't be friends anymore.
It's criminal. Coffee has to be unadulterated. Oh, some words are difficult on a Friday night. Sometimes I'm still like jumping on some words, and I'm just like, I can write it. I can't really say it. When I did my audiobook, my first book, I read my audiobook myself, and then sometimes I was like, "Ooh, I use very difficult words." But yeah, no, you don't dunk anything in the coffee.
No, I had a very interesting experience with one of my classes because my teacher was mispronouncing a word and I didn't understand it. And she was saying inventories. And I was like, inventories. And I was like, I don't think we use that word. And she was saying it. And I was like, is this what you mean for stock? And I was thinking like stock market. But the word that she was trying to say was inventories.
Ah, yeah.
And I felt so stupid because I told her that we use this other word, and it was like, oh no, she was just saying it really in a weird way. Because inventories and inventories, not the same word. Like inventories, I'm thinking of like an invention.
Yeah, I think when you're not native, the nuance between those two is very difficult to grasp.
But this would be like, because Claire, you're doing an English-based program, right? Yeah, have you come across any like very interesting pronunciation of English words?
Yeah, I have one lecturer who won't say the word null. He'll just spell it really fast. He goes N-U-L-L. It's like, no. And like all of my lecturers, I guess at some point realized that I'm American. And if they don't know a word, they'll just ask me how to pronounce it. I'll just be like in the back, not paying attention. I'm like, what word is this? Like, dromedary. Why do you need to know that word?
It's because it's exciting to meet an American. I swear, when you live in Belgium, like an American is like, unless you're in Brussels and you see Americans all the time, it's just like, yeah, I would have been excited. I lived like where I lived, there was this like military base for Americans. There was a lot of like different people from America coming, army thing. I don't know how it's like the proper name, and so we had quite a lot of Americans actually living around there because they come and they live for like a year or 2 years or something like that. But that's very rare, especially in the South part. So literally, I would meet an American. I would be so excited. I would be like, yes, be my friend. Speak English. Tell me
I have the same experience in school, except they'll ask people for definitions of things. And like, this is where my ESL like training comes in, because I'm so used to having to explain things to people who don't speak my language as a second language. So I'm so good at coming up with definitions that are simplified. And I'll be like, this is what this means. Oh, but yeah. And then translations. People ask me, what does this mean? And they'll just give me the French or the Dutch verb. And I'll be like, and it's like, I understand it in Dutch or I understand it in French. How do you say that in English? Like, that's the worst thing. Yeah, it's like when you understand something.
Yeah, the more fluent you become, the less you actually translate. I have this exact problem because my job, part of my job is translating things from English to French for a website. And my problem is I've been here for so long that there are some stuff that I really understand because they're like expressions or they're just words that just don't exist in French, that I'm really struggling sometimes to find some translations because I understand, I just can't translate it. And being a translator is such a difficult job sometimes.
Oh yeah, round of applause to you. I originally thought that I was going to go in translation, and then I did it for a year, and I was like, oh my God, this sucks so hard. No.
It's hard. I'm really lucky that it's not like the biggest part of my job, but it is difficult sometimes when you try to, especially because English, that's why I love English. I love English. I'm passionate about English. I want to learn everything and all the different forms and everything. The English is so snappy compared to French and compared to many languages. You can say so much in so very little that it's just impossible to find the equivalent in another language. And we have also a German translator, and I think I can see he's struggling with the same things because in English you can have one word to say something, and then in French I'm going to have 5 words.
See, that's so funny because I did French to English, and I found because I have the exact opposite. I feel like French can describe something in such a lyrical and melodical way that doesn't happen in English. That I feel like when you translate it, you're really just like butchering it and just taking away all the feeling that was in the original. Because I feel like there's just like this feeling that you just don't get when you translate French to English.
For me, it's more like a waste of time because you need so many words. But I guess, yes, beautiful. You know, they say that when you learn another language, especially when you come to the point where you are actually thinking in that other language, your brain structure actually changes. Because learning a different language is not just learning different words, it's learning a different way of thinking. So like Dutch, for example, you are thinking much more future. Like there was literally research about that because you have to know what the verb goes at the end of the sentence and things like that. You think in a very different way than someone who's going to have language that is very sequential. It's just like one thought after another thought and everything. And so when I think in French, for example, that's why I can't write in French anymore, because before when I was writing in French, when I reread stuff that I used to write, it feels so convoluted because you try to get to that poetic aspect of the language when you write. And to me now, because I think in French in English 99% of the time, it feels so foreign. It feels like it's not me anymore because the brain changed, the way you think changed. And yeah, it's so really like it's being studied that really the connections in your brain completely change. It's crazy.
Okay, here's a question for you too. Have you ever dreamt in a foreign language?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the time.
Anytime I dream in a foreign language, it's always like the verbs of that language are trying to eat me.
What?
Yeah, the first time I ever dreamt in French, I was on this train and I was being chased by French verbs through the train who were trying to eat me. And it was the most scariest. I guess it's not a dream, it's more of a nightmare then.
That is so funny.
And then it took a really long time before like that morphed into an actual dream of just people speaking in French. And I remember waking up and being like, oh my gosh, I dreamt in French and I understood everything and just being so happy with myself. I was thinking, I didn't even think the grammar was correct in the dream.
You know what? The first time you dream in that other language and you understand what you're dreaming, that I remember that. It makes you proud. It really does.
But I had the same thing like with Dutch, that when the first time I ever dreamt in Dutch, it was like this Dutch verb trying to eat me. So I don't know what it is, but like I have a thing against like verbs.
Very disturbing dreams.
What's that mean?
No, No, I've never dreamt of like an English verb trying to eat me. I just want to put that out there. It's always like the foreign language verbs.
You
They're
have to learn
mean.
some more languages and see what kind of verbs come after you.
Yeah, I would be curious. Like maybe like some of them are more aggressive, some of them are just running for the sake of it.
I don't know. I think it has to do with stress because I know like there's so much that you can express when you know verbs. So that's like the thing that I concentrate on the most because like adjectives, you really don't need to know all of them. You just need to know how to say a negative and then one adjective. So if you don't know the word for slow, you just have to say not fast. People will understand you. But like if you don't know how to say I read, there's no way to express that unless you know the verb. And I think that's why I have like these dreams about verbs eating me because like that's my focus when I learn a language is just verbs, learn the verbs.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering, like at school now, which languages are you studying? Because I know there was a bit of a mix at the beginning.
Oh, I'm doing German and that's it.
I thought you were doing like French and Dutch or something.
Okay, I was supposed to do Dutch, but my Dutch is too good. So
Yeah.
So I was going to have to do it after school at the CVO. And I was just like, oh, I don't really want to do that. And so I was able to get an exemption. And then I was going to take French because my reading in French really sucks. Like I can speak it and I probably sound like an idiot because I have the accent down. Sometimes I just don't conjugate because it's like, I don't care anymore. But I wanted to take the class to learn how to read better in French. But I really did not like the French teacher, like at all. And I was thinking, it's 3 hours of French on Friday. I'm going to see if I can just drop it because I got the exemption from Dutch. So you had to take 2 languages. And so my language is German. Also, the French didn't work because like I learned originally French from the basis of English. And then when I got good at it, it was only taught in French. And the class that I was taking, even though it was a higher level, she was still teaching it in Dutch. And like my brain just broke.
Oh yeah, that's too much.
Because I was like, I don't know what this Dutch word means, but I know what the French word means. And there was this one like little, we'll say like test that we were doing that I knew the answers. I didn't know the Dutch versions because there was this part where we had to translate and I was like, I don't know these tenses in Dutch. And then like, so I didn't do that. And then we had to like list what tense it was. And I was like, I know what the answer is in English, but I don't really know what they are in French. And so it was like this whole thing like, okay, I know what I'm doing, but my issue is that I don't know them in like either this or this. So I was just like, I'm going to drop the class.
Oh. But if you want to learn to read in French, I can, advise you on a few books that are just fun to read and they are good French. And then I think
the issue with French that I had is that you have French tenses, like actual literary tenses.
Yeah.
That are only for books.
Yeah.
And when you take French in the US, they're like, oh, you don't need to know these because it's only in classic literature.
No.
And they lie. Because I bought Twilight, which is not classic French literature, and it uses the French tenses, like the French literary tenses. And I was like reading them, and it's like, I don't know the literary tenses, and that's why I can't read in French.
There are a few books that are written in the present tense. I'm thinking Amélie Nothomb, she's a big Belgian writer. And I think some of her books are written in the present. So it might be easier for you to read. And they're very short too, so it's less discouraging than bigger books. But I'll have a look because I still, read from time to time in French, when I need to kind of do something that's not too much from my brain. Because it's just like
Yeah.
no matter how good my English is, it's still always easier for me to do it in French. But it's true that we have, like, it is really the way you write. Like, I wrote fan fictions, and the fan fictions were written in that past tense.
Yeah, the passé composé, and not like the literary French tense.
And it's just, it has to be like that, because that's the way you taught to write, really.
Yeah.
Not that I was really taught like formally, but yeah, that's how all the books are, most of the books at least.
Do you have to take any languages, Claire?
No, I do not. But oddly, one of the courses, the book is half in French.
In
It's one
Antwerp.
I'm not taking yet. I'm going to take it next year, but the students are all complaining about it, and they're like, "This is an English course. There's no French in anywhere in this program. Why is half this book in French?" Which is a very good question.
What is it about?
Business English.
It's in French.
Makes a lot of sense. Half of it is in French, half of it is in English, and it is not like a direct translation or anything. It's just that part of it is literally just in French.
Why are they making you take business English? You're a native English speaker.
Yeah, I might be able to get out of it, but it is an international program. I think there's only like 2 other native English speakers in my entire program. So it is useful for most people.
Yeah, they tried to sign me up for the English as a second language course. And I explained to the girl, yeah, I speak English. And she was telling me, yeah, well, I still have to take Dutch. And I was thinking, I doubt you've ever had to take Dutch as a second language. That would be weird. But I bought the books anyway because I was like, I'm sure she knows what she's talking about. And then it was like, no, she didn't. It was English as a second language.
Oh my God.
And I actually contacted the teacher who I thought the books belonged to. And she's like, yeah, you don't need to do that because you're American.
Yeah.
Well, especially like the English classes. I mean, I had an English course when I was in university, and like learning by myself, I was already higher than that level. So, there's a question.
Yeah, it's for you, Claire.
It is. Keen eye. Yeah, Casey.
Ooh, that is fancy.
I like that.
I think it's probably the wrong one for the beer that I chose, but let's not talk about that.
That's okay. That's like the theme of this channel. We never use the right glass.
I mean, at least you didn't have like this, like just a common tumbler that everyone can buy anyway. It doesn't even have a brand on it.
How dare you?
No, one of my favorite, what's it called? Like a beer sommelier, but there's a special word for it, but I can't remember, is Beer Afrocheck. I found her on Twitter, and she makes her own beer glasses. And I remember making a comment about her glasses, and her comment to me was like what opened my mind that I was never going to change beer glasses. She was like, well, the beauty of my glasses is that you can drink any beer in it. And I was just like, yes, yes. And once they come in stock, I'm getting that glass. Nice. And then I'm just going to like trigger a whole bunch of people because they'll be like, that's from an American. It's like, that's right. It's from an American woman and it's in the wrong shape. Screw you all.
Now, I wonder, like, do you get a lot of Belgian people who are just like coming and just like being like, oh, you're American, you don't know anything about beers?
Actually, not that many. Like, I know I complain a lot about the comments, but it's just because I'm generally shocked at like how many people just come and like dump on my channel. And it's like, did you even watch the video that you're commenting on? Because based on your comment, it doesn't feel that way. But no, most of the people are just like, oh yeah, you know a lot about beer for an American. That's really impressive.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was literally like very impressed. You have tasted more beers than I have, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like beer, if you just get into it a little bit, that's like the perfect icebreaker for Belgians, because Belgians are like, oh, have you tried this beer? It's like, yes, I have. What do you think about it?
This is very true. This is very true. There's always more. That's the good thing about it too. You can have tried 100 and there's 100
Yeah.
more.
Mhm.
Yeah, because people ask, well, like, what's your favorite blonde? And like, my favorite blonde is De Poos, which is this really local brewery in Poperingen. Nobody's heard of them, but then they get really excited because like, oh, that's a good beer. I'll have to look for it and try it. And then they'll be like, okay, here's a list of beers that you need to try. And I love that because, you know, there is so many that if you go to like a beer store, it's like, there's so many that it can be overwhelming that it's like, how do I narrow this down? Okay, well, this logo looks really cool, so I'll just pick this. And you randomly pick 5. So when I get a list of like, hey, try this, it's like, okay, let me find this. And so I like that.
I think also you are pretty much usually sure that it's going to be good quality. It might not be your taste, but it's going to be good quality, which that is something that I miss in the UK. I mean, there are good stuff too here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be like, oh, British beers are disgusting. I'm Belgium. I know the quality, although that's true. But you will have stuff that are really, really good, and then you will have stuff that are just like water, and they are literally next to each other, and there's nothing to differentiate them. They have the same price, they are the same kind of like label and everything, and it's just like, it's so weird. You go to a pub and you have all these like special craft beers and everything, and then one of them is going to be fantastic, and one of them is just literally like, why did you serve me that? It's like soap water from your dishes. It's just very weird, like, to me. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. Like, I remember when I first was studying beer and people were like, oh, they taste different. Like, I think that, like, from an American point of view, that's, like, it doesn't make sense. Because you can go and get a chicken sandwich, and it literally tastes like every single chicken sandwich that you can go at any other restaurant because they literally make it so the taste doesn't change because they want people to like, this is what chicken tastes like. So like if you get a beer in America, if it's a blonde beer, all the blonde beers taste the same. Mm-hmm. All the dark beers are going to taste the same. So like all these beers that I have tasted, they do not taste the same. Like each one was an experience. Some were good, some were bad. But I can honestly say that even the ones that were bad, it was just because for my taste profile, it didn't work. Like your taste profiles, it might work. It's not like, I think next week I'm trying Corona beer. Like that was just sadness. It really was. And I think that's such like a typical beer that you drink in the US. It was just like, yeah, it had no taste. Like it really didn't. It was just water.
Tasty, yeah, that's true. I quite like it only if I go to like a Mexican or something like that restaurant because I feel like it works. But yeah, that's true. It doesn't have that much taste.
Go ahead.
No, what I should do is like next time we do these things, I should buy like Budweiser or something like that and just taste it because I've never tasted like I don't think I've ever tasted any American beer. A Corona is Corona. I don't think, is it American? Is it? I don't know.
It's by AB InBev. So technically, I think AB InBev is a Belgian company, but I think it's specifically for Mexico and the US.
Okay.
So it might be considered an import.
That's the only one, but I know that my corner shop sells. I think it's Budweiser. And I really like just for the laughs. I would just like buy one and just for the laughs, just like, oh yeah, totally.
I want to try that. Like somebody suggested that I try Cara pills.
Oh my god, I can't believe you tried that. This is
and literally, like I had the whole thing, the worst beer in Belgium, and then I tried that. I was like, nope, I found it. That was the worst beer in Belgium. Like there's nothing.
I mean, like, even as a broke student, when I was studying and you would go to parties and you would drink anything, it would never, ever, ever be Cara. Like this, if you went to a party and the beer was carapils, you knew you had to get out of there fast, because this was not the kind of party you wanted to be in. So this is literally like the carapils. I think this is really seen. It has a really bad reputation because it's really seen as the beer that alcoholics drink, or that like homeless people drink, because it's so cheap, right? But it just has zero taste.
Yeah. Like the Deleuze, like generic beer tasted better than the carapils. It was there was nothing. Yeah, it was just water. Like carbonated water. Not even like carbonated water, because carbonated water has a taste.
It's made me laugh so much. Like, that's the one that you try.
But it was an experience. I am happy that I tried it. But we have a comment from Liam who says, "Hey," and then, "How are y'all?"
Good.
We're doing good.
Yeah, talking about beers is not much better. So, have you taken the Belgian habit of having these like little pieces of cheese when you get beer that has a little bit of celery salt on it? Because that is so typical of Belgian cafes to have that with your beer.
No.
I've never seen that.
No.
Okay, so it might just be on the south side then. I don't know. But yeah, in my hometown, if you go and you get a beer in a cafe, you will have either like crisp or stuff like that. But very often you will get cubes of like Gruyere or whatever type of cheese. And then you have next to it this like bottle of like spice bottle, and it's celery salt, and it has this very, very savory kind of taste. And you put it on the cheese, and then you eat it, and it literally opens like your taste buds, I think, for your beer. Fantastic.
That sounds good.
A Belgian tip. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I normally don't drink beer like out in a pub or a bar that often. Like I buy them and bring them home because, you know, content.
Of course. That makes absolutely sense. And you can, like, if you see some of these cube of cheese, and then at the supermarket the celery salt, sorry, you try it. It's really good. It goes really well.
Cheese is not like something that I would associate with cheese or with beer. Like when I think beer, I think peanuts.
Really?
Yeah, or like pretzels.
No, beer and cheese is like what the monks were doing.
Yeah, beer, cheese, and sausage.
That was
Dry sausage.
maybe that's a California thing.
No, like in
No.
America, yeah, peanuts and pretzels and chips. For America, yeah, but here it's like
Oh yeah, for here, yeah.
beer with cheese. That's why you get a trasha.
I think I've done that, but it was only at a beer tasting where they gave cheese and like little sausages. But I also thought that was really weird.
It goes together.
Chris is saying, I'd rather have marcassou with dark beer. Is it like saucisson?
What does marcassou?
Yeah, I'm not sure, actually. Oh God, I haven't been in Belgium for so long. I don't know anything anymore.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think Chris is from the Belgian, or not the Belgian side, the Dutch side. Marcassou. I don't know.
So now, big question. Do you prefer dark beer or blonde beer?
I hate blonde beer. It's not good. Dark beer all the way.
Yeah.
Marcassou is sausage from the Ardennes. Ooh.
Okay, the comment isn't showing up for me, so we have to wait before I can show it.
Sure.
There must be a lag on my. Oh, there we go. Oh, she has a fiance. So.
Yeah, I'm engaged. So thank you, but yeah.
But yeah, sausages from Ardennes.
Oh.
I've never heard of that.
I've heard
Sausages.
of Ardennes sausage. I didn't know what the name for it was.
I feel like sausages are also something that's sort of like other, because when I think sausages, I think beef jerky, which is not really a sausage, but like Slim Jim,
You call them a sausage?
Well, I don't know what they would be called, because it's like we have Toulouse sausages that we eat all the time. Like, you know, Toulouse, right? But like, what would you call that in English? Because it's like, it looks like a hot dog, but it's not a hot dog.
I guess it's a sausage.
Yeah, like, because we don't really have like sausages. It's hot dogs. Like, that's it. And then when it comes to like the dried sausages, we have Slim Jims, and that's it.
Yeah, I think the more you go,
at least for me.
I think the more you go towards like the Ardennes is really known for having like these really, really nice ones, but it's also because it's not far from Germany, where you have like amazing ones. The east side of France too is like fantastic. Yeah. Oh my God. We're talking about food. I'm getting hungry.
Okay, here's a question for like everybody. But what is your favorite food? And it can be from anywhere. So Sweden, Belgium, London, or like for Claire, like Belgium or the US.
That's hard, man. Like ever?
Yeah.
That is very difficult.
What's yours?
Let's see, my favorite food ever. Probably it's going to be like cereal. Because that's the one thing, like, in Belgium. Well, no, first in France, like, they had, like, baguettes for breakfast, which seemed, like, so, like, complicated to me. It's like, because cereal's just, like, done. And then like
it's cereal.
And then your cereal aisle is so little, because it's like cornflakes, like something chocolate, something hazelnut, and that's it. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll have like an oatmeal option, or like some type of like red fruit option. And like in the US, we have things like shredded wheats, and then you can choose like the strawberry or the blueberry or the normal. There's like Captain Crunch, there's Lucky Charms, there's like Fruit Loops, there's all these different, it's all sugar.
I don't like cereal, so I can't really relate to that.
That's something that I miss, is like just the ease of breakfast, of you can have like any sugar that you want. I know it's unhealthy, but just like that, and you're done. Like, that's what I miss. Also, normal pizza. Like, this is something that Prince Charming and I fight over all the time, because the crust for me is the best part of the pizza. Like, there needs to be a crust. And he likes like the crustless pizza, like the flat dough stuff.
Thin crust.
Yeah. And so we always fight over like pizzerias, because for me, the best pizzerias have a crust. And for him, he's like, no, they don't.
I mean, I'm half Italian, so I like Italian pizza. And that's it. And everything else is not a real pizza. So I can't really help there, because American pizza are not pizza, they're pies.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah.
Oh, God.
How do we feel about deep dish pizza?
It's pie. Pizza.
I don't think I've ever actually had a proper deep dish.
Really?
Yeah, but I feel like it would be delicious, because it would have a crust. Like, that's the one thing that
that's it.
Like, I need a good thick crust. It's just, oh, it's delicious. And yeah,
I don't agree.
Like, people will ask me, like, maybe like, do people ever ask you like, what do you fight with your significant other? And I'm like, it's mostly food. Like, that's what we fight about, the proper way to eat food.
Same. This is literally that. It's literally like, how do you do this? Like that or like that? And then, yeah.
Like other people are having these really serious conversations. It's like, why do you fight about that stuff? Like, food, guys, food.
Food is important. Oh my God.
It's like, okay, do you eat baked potatoes, Céline?
I do, yeah. It's not like something that I do very often. But here in the UK, they love the jacked potatoes, so it's not my thing. But yeah, I do. Why?
Because that's like a staple for me. Baked potatoes. Like if I think of a dinner, baked potato is the way you make the potato. For my husband, it's like fries or sautéed. And we constantly fight about that. Okay, second question. Do you eat the skin?
Of course.
You're a better Belgian than my husband.
That's the half Italian side, you know. You have to.
Do you eat the skin, Claire?
Yes,
Okay.
of course.
See, that's like another big thing that we fight about. I tell him, you're wasting the best part of the potato.
Okay, I have another question like that. When you eat fish, do you eat the whole fish, like with the head and everything, or do you eat fillets?
I normally just eat the part that they give me without the bones.
No, but do you never eat like a whole fish, like a proper, like, because that is something that my fiance has never done really before until I did like a whole trout in the pan, and apparently it's weird. It is.
Okay, my first experience like with the whole fish that like included the head and the tail was in France. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know how to, because my host brother actually went to the river and caught it and brought it home and cleaned it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, how do you know how to do this? Where did you learn to do this? And I was really culture shocked the first time because you have like a proper store for seafood.
Yeah.
And like you could, like the fish are there with their heads, they're complete.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very culture shock to me.
You don't have like fishmongers in America?
Maybe if you live on the coast.
Yeah. If you live in a city where there's a fishing industry, then yeah. But otherwise, no. Freezer section of the grocery store.
Yeah, because I would say where we live in Pennsylvania, like we're sort of inland because we lived in the Pittsburgh area, and we still had things like lobster, like that's lobster, shrimp. But I have family in Colorado that like they don't have lobster out there, and if they do, it's like really expensive. It's amazing that the food changes so much from like PA to Colorado, and it's like it's the same country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's the same in different countries in Europe too. You will have very, very different stuff, like from Belgium to Germany and everything. But Chris was saying bread with slice of baked blood pudding. Yeah, yes. I think blood sausages or blood pudding and stuff like that, that is something that most countries are not going to understand.
Well, that's the boudin, right?
Yeah.
You can get them in black and white. Yeah, I've never liked those.
I don't like either of them. I just don't.
I think unless you've been raised with that, you're not gonna like it because it sounds disgusting. I agree, it sounds disgusting, but it's delicious. That and warm applesauce.
No, warm applesauce is so
and
weird.
Fries.
Why? Why would you warm it up?
Because it works. Try it.
Well, no, see, here's the whole thing. I can understand warm applesauce if you're making it homemade and you're being lazy and you didn't make it in advance, right? But like if you're getting it in the jar, that means you have to put it. You have to put it in something and just make something dirty to warm it up.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Which is just extra dishes. Like, why would you do that?
Because it's so much better.
It's ecologically irresponsible.
Oh, who cares? Are you talking to me, American, about ecologically irresponsible? Seriously? See, Chris Chris understands me. You know, how can you eat it cold? Yeah.
How can you eat it warm? Like, no, it's what, like, I wouldn't even be bothered by it, except for literally years. I felt guilty over the fact that I was serving it warm when, in fact, my husband was like, no, this is normal. I was just like, what? No.
Oh my God.
Like, I just assumed that for him it was abnormal, and I was so culture shocked that I was like, okay, no, this has to be just a weird thing with him and his family. And so I went to school the next day and asked all the Belgians, how do you eat your applesauce? And they're like, hot? And that's when it struck me, like, oh, they're all weird.
You know, what makes me laugh is imagining you just going to your class every week with different questions. Like, so, do you all do this? And then all the Belgians are going to say something, and then all the other guys coming from all the different countries are going to be like, why? It's like
Oh,
division in your class.
Yeah, I was that student. Like, every week I had like a new question. Like, I remember when we learned about like the medical stuff and the teacher was telling us how the doctor came to the house. I actually laughed out loud when she said that because I thought she was joking. And she's like, what's so funny? It's like the doctor coming to the house. And she's like, no, they do. I'm like, what? Like, I literally screamed that out loud. I was like at the house, like, are you rich? Like, I really thought that, like, because the teacher was saying how she did it once. I was like, how much do they pay you as a teacher? Like, I need to get in on this. And she was saying, no, it doesn't cost that much. I was like, yes, it does. Like the president has doctors that come into his house, but he's like the president. Like, Bill Gates probably has a doctor that comes to his house, but you know, he's like the richest man in the US. Like,
Different systems. What can I say? It's just better.
it is.
Yeah.
Because she was explaining how, like, the one time that the doctor actually came, like, she was sick, her children were sick, her husband was sick, nobody was up to going to the actual doctors. I was like, that is so amazing. Like, that's something there's a lot of stuff that I want to steal from Belgium and just be like, yeah, hey, US, do this. And that's one of them. Like, I don't know how it would work. I don't know how we could implement that system, but oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, you would need like 100% more doctors, I think, just simply.
Well, I think it also works because Belgium is tiny.
Yeah, it's easier to go from one place to another. That's true. That's very true. That's true.
Because I think for some people, like, the hospital closest to them might be like an hour away, which, like, for me, we had actually options when I broke my foot, and I think the closest one was 20 minutes away. So that's like nothing. I mean, where my mom lives now, like, it's 5 minutes away because we literally live right next door to the hospital, which is great. But when we lived in Pittsburgh, I think it would have been an hour.
And when you're in pain or you're having like a really big emergency, an hour is like it's a lot.
Yeah. And then, like, you really also, like, the ambulances here. Like, you guys don't charge people a lot of money for those ambulances. Like, that's amazing.
No, that's human. Like, Americans, you just like thinking, oh, should I have an ambulance? I have a heart attack, but
You get an Uber.
Yeah, maybe I should get an Uber, you know, because an ambulance, I'm just going to pay it until the day I die if I don't die today, you know. It's just like...
Yeah, and you're afraid to call. If you see someone is having an emergency, you're afraid to call an ambulance for them because they're stuck with that bill.
Yeah. No, there was an article like a couple years ago about some guy who got bit by a rattlesnake, and the whole process of him going to the hospital and getting the antivenom was like $10,000. And he was saying, they should have just let me die because I can't pay this. And it's sort of funny, not funny like ha ha, like funny, but like funny sad, because recently they showed some guy who had a $2 million hospital bill from COVID. And my husband was so shocked about that. And I was just like, yeah, that sounds about right.
$2 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better die, I think.
Like for me, I was just like, yep, that sounds about right. He probably didn't have insurance. They probably charged him like, what, $50,000 for the room. And because he had to be in isolation, it's like a private room, even though it's like, yeah. And he was so shocked about it because he kept talking about it for days. And he's like, why aren't you shocked over this? It's like, why aren't you shocked over the fact that the doctor comes to our house? It's like literally the same thing.
Yeah. And the copay, what is it in Dutch? I forget. The amount that you pay that your mutuality doesn't cover. That is so small here. It's so tiny. I can go to the doctor whenever I want for any reason. I'm sad. I just want to talk to the doctor, have a conversation. Like nothing, really. If I try to do that in California, it's at least $100 every time. Even if they just look at me and say, I don't know, $100.
No, I found that like the copay that you'd have to pay in the US is normally like more than what you'd pay in Belgium without insurance.
Yes.
Yeah, because to go to the doctors, I think for my mom, and my mom has like the Cadillac of insurance. It's amazing insurance. I think her copay is like $15 now, which to go to the doctors here is like 21 euros. And then once you get reimbursed, you only pay 4.
Yeah,
but I've been in situations where like I didn't have cash with me and the doctors were like, okay, don't worry about it. And I was like, wait, really? I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't think I've ever experienced that with the doctor in the US. Like, really, they're just like, whatever.
Oh my God, that's funny. Anyway, I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna have to go.
Oh no, it is like 12:30. I said that it wasn't gonna last that long.
Wow.
And for me, it's not even that late, but I'm still really tired. And now that the fireworks have stopped, because we had like the bonfire night here yesterday, which is like basically an excuse for people to do fireworks, and they do that the whole week. And so the whole week you can't sleep until like midnight because it's just like fireworks everywhere. But now today it's finally calmed down. Yeah.
So you can go to sleep at a decent hour.
Yes.
Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, and in the future, for you guys that came and watched, Céline will be coming on in 2 weeks, and then Claire will be coming on in 4 weeks if I can do math right. But I'm a little tipsy right now, so it might be wrong. So you will see them again soon.
Yes.
So have a good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.